3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place you're not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. A happy Monday to you. Welcome on in. A big Zach Gelb show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. And you could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Moist Mike and also Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And I just realized something. Sometimes you get on the radio and right when you're a minute into the show, a little light bulb goes off into your head and you say, I didn't realize I didn't do something today. Well, I just realized I had no coffee today. And you know why I had no coffee today? Because I was so energized by what the Dallas Cowboys did yesterday. The drama Dallas choking Cowboys folks are back, and I absolutely love it. And it's so funny to me because last week was the week of praise for the cockroach Cowboy fans, and all of you had to do a victory lap. See, Zach, you've been too critical on the Cowboys. Oh, they blow out the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas is a legit Super Bowl contender. Dak Prescott is the MVP of the NFL. And here we are a week later, sitting here on a Monday, and Dak Prescott was only able to put up, basically 3 points. I know they got 10, so we could give them a little golf clap at the end of the game for finally getting into the end zone. But they did nada in Buffalo yesterday. And here's my thing. Because even I admitted last week, in a rare moment of weakness, and then I washed my mouth out with soap just to remind me of how stupid I was, that I said the Cowboys were a likable team. Like last week, I thought the Cowboys, even though it pained me to see them having success, I thought they were a likable team. Dak is a likable player. CeeDee Lamb, likable player. Zach Martin, likable player. Micah Parsons, likable player. Mike McCarthy, I think he gets unfairly criticized too much. Dan Quinn, deserving of a second opportunity to be a head coach in this league. So there's a lot of things, even though I usually don't like with the Cowboys, that I'm looking at them this year and I go, you know what? I still think they're going to come up small and fold in a big spot, but they are a team that I could actually enjoy watching this season. And then I remembered on Sunday, for a team, by the way, in the Buffalo Bills that I told you last week, and everyone's going to jump onto this take this week, that the Buffalo Bills are trending towards being a Super Bowl contender. And there was a reason last week I put plus 1,000 bet on them to win the AFC and get to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. That's looking better and better and better by the day. But you see in a big moment, after a week of praise for the Cowboys, they just went back to being who they always are since 1995. And that's a team that at times looks like they're really good. They could dress it up with 11, 12, 13 wins in the regular season, but then there are signs throughout the season that will eventually be put on full display in the postseason when the moment is the biggest, the moment is the brightest, and everyone's watching, where they don't only lose, but they lose in embarrassing fashion. And that's my gripe with the Cowboys yesterday. They lose that game in a high-scoring affair, 34-31, 28-27, something that's close, something that's respectable, something that at least you had a pulse and not just get steamrolled by the Buffalo Bills. I wouldn't crush the Cowboys today. But when you were in the midst of, a 5 or 6 game win streak, where they beat the Giants who stink, they beat the Panthers who stink, they crushed the Commanders who stink. All righty, then they beat Seattle, and then they crushed Philadelphia. You know, that Philadelphia one, to cap off that 5-game win streak, it gave the Cowboys new life. It gave the Cowboys momentum. It gave the Cowboys fans a little hope that they haven't seen in a while, that maybe this year is different. Because it's one thing when you internalize it and when you think it on your own, and then you have other people that are Cowboys fans say it and push that hogwash. But then once it gets pushed by people that don't have ties to the Dallas Cowboys or people that are looking to see the Cowboys fail, where last week you couldn't find a negative word said about the Cowboys, it then allows you to think, and it maybe confirms a new thought that you've had of just maybe, this is the year that the Dallas Cowboys don't disappoint you. But then up against that Buffalo Bills team, they didn't just beat you. They ran the ball right down your throat. Like, Josh Allen is a sensational quarterback. He's one of the few elite quarterbacks that are actually this far into the season still healthy, which is a major advantage for the Buffalo Bills. But even Josh Allen after the game was like, yeah, I was basically just along for the A in the class project. I didn't do much. And James Cook and that offensive line, the hog mollies up front for the Buffalo Bills were awesome. And I got to give a shout out to my friend Deion Dawkins, who joined us last week. Deion Dawkins channeled his inner Michael Orr from the movie The Blind Side. Remember that scene where Michael Orr is in high school and you have like the racist father yelling a bunch of derogatory things at Michael Orr, and then his son's going up against him, and then eventually Michael Orr had enough, and he takes the son and he blocks the son 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 yards down the field, out of the end zone and into the dumpster. You know, that's only something that's made for movies. But the snowman in Deion Dawkins, who should be an all-pro offensive tackle in this league, and I will die on that hill until justice is met to Deion Dawkins, am I right? He took a defensive player for the Cowboys and embarrassed him 20 yards down the field. I've never seen that happen on an NFL field. Grown man up against grown man, and that grown man of Deion Dawkins took someone from the Cowboys. I don't even know who it was. And he took him 20 yards downfield, down to the one, and then shortly after that, they got a touchdown. You don't recover from that. Like the Dallas Cowboys cannot recover from being emasculated like that by number 73 in Deion Dawkins. That's embarrassing. And that's my thing with the Cowboys. Even when they start to look the part, even when you start to say, wow, the Cowboys as a Super Bowl contender are maybe real and spectacular, they always have that moment where it's wah, wah, wah. And the stunning part here is how quickly we've all gone from, wow, here are the Dallas Cowboys. All righty, the Cowboys are 10-3. They're beating the doors off anybody. Sure, they lost to the 49ers. They got blown out, but that's their kryptonite. Yeah, they got blown out, or they lost a close game to the Eagles, but then they were able to get some revenge on it. So going into this week, this past week, it was all praise for the Cowboys. And it's gone in a snap of a finger. Because that great defense, right? A defense that is unbelievable. And, all right, throw them in the same category as the 85 Bears, the early 2000 Ravens, all the great steel curtain defenses with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Legion of Boom with the Seattle Seahawks. Where the heck was that defense? Because there's nothing more embarrassing when an offensive line does not get intimidated by your defense and they just say, we're going to pound you all game long. And we're going to hit you on the ground game all game long. Ground and pound. Run until we can't run anymore. It really did remind me of the Michigan-Penn State game this year, where Michigan's like, yeah, we got J.J. McCarthy, but we don't need him. Let's line up Blake Corum. Let's line up Donovan Edwards, and let's have those big boys up front for the Michigan Wolverines just run through the Penn State defense like a hot knife through butter. And that's what the Buffalo Bills did yesterday up against the Cowboys. So, the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, welcome back. I missed you. Your good friend Zach Gelb, a good confidant of the Cowboys, was starting to give you praise. I was going into uncharted territory where I was like, wow, the Cowboys are fun. Oh, the Cowboys are solid. The Cowboys are actually likable this year. The Cowboys may have something. And then there was a little voice going off in my head. And the little voice was saying, Zach, everything that you've exposed with the Cowboys throughout the last few years, now you're not listening to your own advice. And then, boom, big game, coming off a big victory, and they didn't even show up. Once again, they lose that game by a touchdown or less. I'm not crushing them. Do you think I, of all people, really enjoy crushing the Dallas Cowboys and I look for reasons to crush the Dallas Cowboys? Come on, that's not me. But I'm just being genuine here. I would not be lambasting the Dallas Cowboys today. I would not be chastising the Cowboys if they would have just had a pulse in the game. But that body was dead early in that contest. And then you had to sit at your funeral, and it was a slow, long eulogy and a slow, long funeral the entire day. So Dallas, we appreciate you. Dallas, we love you. And I don't care what the heck you do for the rest of the regular season against Miami, Detroit, and Washington. We know what's going to transpire. This clip and me crushing the Cowboys will eventually make the rounds come wild card weekend when they go up against the inferior NFC South champion, Tampa Bay, New Orleans. Oh, I'll be the biggest Tampa Bay and New Orleans fans that week. But watch, the Cowboys probably win because that's what they do. They beat up on the bad teams. And neither of those teams, even though the Baker Mayfield story's fun, I can't stand Derek Carr, but both of those teams, I would not call them good teams. So Dallas probably wins, and it will be the week of throwing flowers and bouquets at the Dallas Cowboys. Up here they are. You know, they won a playoff game. Oh, Dak Prescott, he looked great. Carved up the Bucs, carved up the Saints, threw for 3-4 touchdown passes. Maybe this year's going to be different. And then, in all likelihood, Dallas will be walking into San Francisco, and they'll lose again to San Francisco because when San Francisco goes up against the Cowboys, for the Cowboys, we all know it's death, it's taxes, and it's losing to the San Francisco 49ers. And just maybe, in a rare moment of weakness, you know, maybe in the second round they draw, I don't know, the Lions. Maybe they draw the Philadelphia Eagles. Are they able to walk into Ford Field? They're maybe able to walk into Lincoln Financial Field. There is no chance, no way that this team is going to win 3 games in a row come postseason time. At max, at most, at the apex, they could maybe win 2. But they're not going to be able to win 3. And they won't have a bye. So maybe if it goes wild card divisional round, we all then know the Cowboys will choke in the big moment in the NFC title game at the absolute latest. Let's hope it doesn't go on, though, that long. Now, as for the Buffalo Bills, this is just one of those years where in the AFC, like I love what Lamar Jackson and Baltimore's doing, even though they suffered another injury last night with the running back in Mitchell, and we'll see what happens with the big left tackle who's always banged up the last few seasons. Lamar is so great at extending the plays. Lamar is sensational running the football. He has improved in a big-time way, throwing the football down the field. Him and Isaiah Likely, right? Mark Andrews done for the season. Isaiah Likely is now starting to get hot for the Baltimore Ravens, and they have a good defense, and they have a solid coach. The Ravens are going to be a tough out. But if the Ravens are the best in the AFC, it's not as if it's as intimidating as some other years with what the best the AFC has had to offer. And I say that as someone that's always been pro-Lamar, and I say that as someone that loves Harbaugh and believes in this team. But you look at the AFC, I think the Dolphins have problems. I think the Chiefs have problems. And this is a year where it's up for the taking, even with what we've seen through the first 15 weeks of football. And if Buffalo just gets in, and they're 8-6 right now, down the stretch in their final 3 games, you know, their toughest game is going to be up against Miami. They should get wins the next 2 weeks. So you're looking at 10, 11 wins. I think Buffalo is trending towards a playoff team, and not only trending towards a playoff team, but being a dominant team come playoff time. Because through all these hiccups, they get 10, 11 wins, and you start to see that defense improve as the Cowboys offense did nothing yesterday, and you have that offensive line, and James Cook continues to shine, and you have one of the best quarterbacks in football in Josh Allen. And oh, yeah, by the way, a team that's been through a lot of problems, but also has a ton of playoff experience against all odds. If I would have said this 3-4 weeks ago, even 2 weeks ago, people would say, Zach, what are you smoking? Zach, what drugs are you doing? You need to take a drug test here. CBS Sports Radio needs to drug test you. But then the last 2 weeks, they've been able to exhale. And that win up against Kansas City, even if it wasn't pretty, and style points don't matter in the NFL. This isn't college football. They were able to exhale and say, wow, we beat Kansas City in Kansas City. And then they carried it over, and they didn't just make it a one-off where they then just went up against Dallas, right? One of the better teams in the NFL on paper, and they obliterated them. It's just about getting hot sometimes at the right time. We've seen it before. We've seen wildcard teams get hot where in the middle of the season you would think they were left for dead, and then the next thing you know, they're in the Super Bowl. That can happen for Buffalo. And if I had to make a Super Bowl prediction right now, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills out of the AFC, and out of the NFC, I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers. And right now, yes, I would put the 49ers as the Super Bowl champion. They are just unbelievable with Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, my BFF. You got George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. All the names. We could sit and do an entire segment on the names of the defensive players for the San Francisco 49ers. But I really do believe the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl and they're going to defeat the Buffalo Bills. And I'm not just saying that to say that. I put my money where my mouth is. I put the Bills last week at plus 1,000. But the AFC just doesn't have a team that you overwhelmingly love. Like the Ravens are really damn good. The Chiefs have offensive problems. The Dolphins can't win a big game. And then you have Buffalo that everyone's counted out. Everyone said they're done, they're over, and now they're starting to get life. Now they're starting to get the Undertaker kind of gif that resonates on social media. And they're popping back up from the casket, and they'll be in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. The Buffalo Bills and the real Dallas Cowboys are back. What say you? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. When we return, elite Joe Flacco, and then also how far can Baker Mayfield take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? We're talking some quarterbacks next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
In a game where it looked like they were going to stun Philadelphia and send home all those raucous, crazy fans at Lincoln Financial Field in a somber mood, the drama Dallas choking Cowboys appeared at the 6-yard line, and they ended the game taking a snap from the 27-yard line. You just can't make it up. They were gifted an opportunity to win the game, and they moved in the wrong direction.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I want to take some time to discuss about the heroics of Baker Mayfield yesterday, and also another improbable victory and a heck of a performance in the fourth quarter by Joe Flacco. Let's start with Baker. Baker Mayfield is turning out to be one of the better comeback stories in the NFL this season. He's not going to win Comeback Player of the Year. It's going to go to Damar Hamlin. Now, we've had this conversation before. There's no criteria about, and clear criteria on what the voters look for Comeback Player of the Year. The fact that Damar Hamlin is still breathing, is still living, is able to make a full recovery and play in some games this year, he gets the award. And we know he's going to get the award, and I don't see how anyone could have a legitimate problem with it, as he almost died on a football field last year. No one thought we would be talking about the Damar Hamlin story in a positive way now. But in terms of on-the-field performance, there's two names that immediately stand out for Comeback Player of the Year. And I'm not going to throw Joe Flacco in there yet because the sample size is too small, but it's Tua Tagovailoa and it's Baker Mayfield. Nobody, and I know there's still 3 weeks left of the regular season, but nobody except me was making the case in the summer as Tua is going to get through the entire season. Every show I heard, every talk show host, all they said was, Tua can't stay healthy. There's no reason to believe that Tua Tagovailoa is going to make it through the season. And Tua has played well. Even though I think there's a ceiling for Tua, he has played really well, and he has put the Dolphins in a position to win the AFC East and be somewhat of a threat come playoff time, even though I don't think the Dolphins are going to find a way to get to the Super Bowl. But then the Baker Mayfield story, I love this one. Because you look at the Cleveland Browns organization. The Browns organization, remember that meme that gets updated almost every year of the I think it's a Tim Couch jersey where it starts, and then it's all the quarterbacks since then, since Tim Couch, and you've more than run out of space on that jersey. Like, you've even run out of screen space when you're consuming that sort of content. And think about it. Baker Mayfield was in Cleveland. He was the number 1 overall pick. There were a ton of different coaches he had to deal with. And in 2020, he led the Browns to the playoffs. And then they were in Pittsburgh, and they didn't just beat the Steelers. They smothered the Steelers. They embarrassed the Pittsburgh Steelers. And since then, even after going to the divisional rounds of the playoffs where they lost to Kansas City, the following year, early on in that season, week 1 or 2, Baker Mayfield suffered an injury. And all throughout that year, Baker Mayfield gutted it out. He played. He did not play well. But we didn't know, was Baker's poor play because of the injury, or was it because he just wasn't that good of a quarterback? Well, regardless of what I thought or other people thought, Baker Mayfield was basically let go from the Browns that offseason because after one poor year and a year with Cleveland where it was disappointing after a monster season, and remember you had him and the whole Odell fight and all that, and then Odell ends up winning a Super Bowl, and even though he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, Odell Beckham Jr., he did catch a touchdown in that Super Bowl. But the Browns said, we need to upgrade our quarterback position. And they turned over their trust and their belief into Deshaun Watson, who you didn't know when Deshaun Watson was going to be able to get on the field with all the allegations against him. And not only did you give up an abundance of first-round picks, you also gave him a fully guaranteed contract. So from them, Baker was on the Browns. It probably behooved Baker to stay on the Browns and just play through the suspension, but that relationship was over. That ship sailed. It was an unhealthy relationship. And late in the summer, Baker Mayfield gets traded to Carolina, and Carolina was in a spot where, sure, at the time, you could look at some of those weapons and say, all righty, maybe they have some things to work with on the offensive side of the ball, but really not much. They have DJ Moore, wide receiver, but Baker Mayfield got to an organization that was toxic, and also an organization where the coaching staff was only going to last 4 or 5 games and was on its way out anyway before the season even started. And it was surprising to some that coaching staff was even back for a third year. So there was a lot of chaos. Baker gets in late in the summer, wins the competition, and it just didn't work out. But if you recall last year, Baker somehow winds up on the Rams, and he was competent. It was about this time last year, I think it was Christmas, where Baker had a good game for the Los Angeles Rams. So then this offseason, Baker is the guy replacing Tom Brady. And how many times do you hear that old cliche, you don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy, you want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaces the guy. And I always laugh at that saying, because sometimes whenever you get the opportunity, you just need to take it. And you can't be picky and go, I don't want to go to Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay, I'm replacing the greatest quarterback of all time, and I'm never going to be able to live up to that standard. But if you do what you can do and you can control what you can control, people can ultimately respect that. And even though this hasn't always been pretty, you talk to anyone on the Bucs this year, they've respected, and sometimes we call Baker Mayfield immature, the leadership that Baker Mayfield has displayed. And yesterday, Baker Mayfield did something that I thought, I didn't even think like it was on my radar. No one even thinks this way. But the fact when you say he's the first quarterback ever to go into Lambeau Field on the road as a visiting team and have a perfect passer rating, that's like one of those moments where you just go, wow. Like, we need to show some appreciation. We need to show and give some love to this Baker Mayfield story. And even though the standard is low, like, if they go 9-8 or 8-9 and win this NFC South, like, we're not popping champagne. We're not giving, like, too much praise to the Buccaneers because we know the division stinks. But this is a team that, yes, they have Mike Evans. Yes, they have Chris Godwin. Yes, they have a good defense. But Baker Mayfield going 22 of 28 yesterday for 381 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and having a perfect passer rating. Like, Baker today deserves his flowers. He deserves his respect. And I'm not telling you Baker is this great elite quarterback, but I don't think Baker Mayfield is this bum. And that was my part of the final year in Cleveland, where I looked at Baker Mayfield and I said, I don't know if he's not as good as what he played the year before, how much of the shoulder it was impacting it. It was legitimate. I don't know how to answer the question, but I probably knew we wouldn't see many more seasons like Baker Mayfield displayed in 2020, but it didn't mean he was going to fall off a cliff. And everyone wrote off the Bucs before the start of the season because they didn't have Tom Brady anymore. But Tampa Bay, now entering the final 3 weeks of the season, they have everything right there for the taking. And it's going to be a two-man race because Desmond Ridder, you just can't trust him with the Falcons anymore. And Arthur Smith, I don't like him as a coach. But now the Bucs have won 3 in a row, and they end the season with the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Panthers. Like, let's see if they can win 2 out of 3. You know, the Jaguars are going to be tough. We'll see if Trevor Lawrence is going to play after the concussion. But the Jaguars, you're getting them at a moment where it's tricky because now they've lost some games, and now it's like, okay, they're going to give their best effort coming up this weekend, but are they going to be able to have Trevor Lawrence? Like, they don't have Trevor Lawrence. That game then all of a sudden turns out to be a very winnable game. But if you look back at this, they went from a stretch where they lost to the Lions, the Falcons, the Bills, the Texans. You know, they lost 4 in a row. When they lose 4 in a row, no one's thinking the Bucs are going to go on this run. Then you beat Tennessee, who cares? And then you lose to San Francisco, you lose to the Colts. Everyone wrote off the Bucs. And the last 3 weeks, it hasn't been pretty. But they beat Carolina, they beat Atlanta, and now they beat Green Bay. And they have an opportunity to go to the postseason. So I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield, and I'm rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the rest of the way. My Falcons prediction is wrong, and quite frankly, even though I love the city of New Orleans, I can't be advocating for Derek Carr. I'm just not a fan of Derek Carr as a quarterback, and that would not be good for the mental health of my friend Stuart Kovacs, because if he has to go watch Derek Carr in a playoff game, that would just be a bad situation, and it would be bad vibes going into the new year of 2024 for our tremendous Stuart Kovacs on the other side of the glass. Now, to the Joe Flacco story. I talked to Amari Cooper yesterday on Ion Football, and Amari Cooper's played with a lot of quarterbacks, one of them being Derek Carr, other being Dak Prescott. But Amari Cooper said the throw that Joe Flacco made to him, where he then ran for about 20, 25 yards into the end zone, was one of the best passes he's ever been thrown by any quarterback. And remember, he also played at Alabama before getting to the pros. And Amari Cooper's been a long-time NFL wide receiver. To see how quickly Joe Flacco has been able to walk into Cleveland and find this fountain of youth, I don't know what it's going to lead to. Like, the Browns should be a playoff team. And it's more, I would say we got to also start talking about Kevin Stefanski in a different way. This is a former coach of the year, right? This guy won coach of the year not that long ago. And I think everyone forgets about that. But people are wondering what Stefanski is as a head coach. This year, they've lost Watson. They lost Nick Chubb. Myles Garrett isn't playing at 100%. Like, they've had a lot of injuries. You know, Jedrick Wills is done. Like, there's a lot of injuries with this team. And they're going to be a double-digit win team. You know, it's crazy what Cleveland's doing. And I loved the Bears yesterday. I was wrong. I loved the Bears. I was looking right through the first 3 quarters. But then in that fourth quarter, Joe Flacco and that offense just got going. And I don't know how much life Joe Flacco still has left in him, but he's throwing the football the last 2 weeks like his arm is 10 years younger, and we know it's not. So I love what I'm seeing out of the Browns. David Njoku burned his face off earlier in this season. He's having a career year, and it was good to see him have a monster day yesterday. But the ending of that game was just wild. Like, you had the touchdown to tie it up to Amari Cooper, and it's like, wow, the Browns are going to do this again. Then you had the field goal to put them up ahead, and then they're marching right down the field, the Bears, and they throw up a Hail Mary, and I thought Darnell Mooney caught it. He was on his backside in the end zone, and then the ball pops up into the air, and it was intercepted by a Cleveland Browns player. Let's listen up to David Njoku. This was after the game on the Bears' near Hail Mary conversion.
Damn near myself, dog. But, you know, luckily our defense made an exceptional play, sealed the game, and that was it.
He damn near bleeped himself. And I think everyone did. That would be the ultimate torture for Browns fans. Because how many times do you have iconic plays that never go their way? To come back, to get the lead, they then lose that game to Justin Fields and the Bears, everyone would be talking about that Hail Mary. And it would be another moment for Cleveland sports fans that would make them curse for the next 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years. But, man, I love what I'm seeing out of Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield. You could have given me 1,000 guesses before the season started. Hey, Zach, who are 2 players you're going to be talking about coming off of Week 15 on a Monday on CBS Sports Radio? If you would have told me the 2, Joe Flacco, I would say, what, did he go into the broadcast booth? And then if you would have said Baker Mayfield, what, he had a horrible performance? But here we are talking about Joe Flacco in Cleveland, of all places, and Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, both having successful finishes to their season in the next 3 weeks. They're easy to root for, and I hope the Browns and the Bucs both make the playoffs. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, we'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief. But first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, Emmanuel Babari.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. Steelers safety DeMonte Casey suspended without pay for the final 3 games of the season. That huge hit on Michael Pittman Jr. yesterday. The NFL announced it's for repeated violation of rules meant to protect the health and safety of players. And the league determined Casey had an unobstructed path to Pittman, that illegal contact could have been avoided. That play early in the second quarter got Casey ejected from the game. Now the rest of the regular season. So the Steelers minus a key defensive back, but it's all about offense this weekend against the Bengals, looking to snap a 3-game losing streak. Head coach Mike Tomlin making a change at quarterback from Mitch Trubisky to Mason Rudolph.
He's a veteran guy. He's a backup, but he's also a veteran guy. He's been in our program a long time. He's here for those reasons. We got a great deal of comfort with him.
Steelers averaging just 10 points a game over the losing streak. College basketball, Purdue made its time out of the number 1 spot in the country. Very short-lived. Boilermakers handling Arizona this weekend. Purdue back as the top team in the country. I'm Emmanuel Barbari.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. So it was not a good performance for the Broncos up against the Detroit Lions. And then you had a interesting exchange, I think is the right way to put it, between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Well, Russ was just on the receiving end of the wrath of Sean Payton. It was kind of impressive that Russ didn't even react to it. I guess he's just immune to coaching freakouts and things like that. But this is Sean on yelling at Russell Wilson on the sideline.
I said the frustrating part of the sequence was the next play to Burton where we scored.
You really animated on the sideline.
I was upset about the call. That's all. Simple. That's it.
When we got on Russell, it looked like you yelled at Russell.
No, I was upset at the call.
If you're upset with the call, what were you yelling at Russell about?
Listen, what I talk with Russell about is none of your business.
Yeah, that doesn't really, add up. Now, there's some times where, for example, I could be mad at something, and I could be yelling about something that I'm mad to Samter, and it looks like I'm yelling at Samter, but that's not the case. I could just be yelling about something that I'm frustrated with. So, it's one of those scenarios where, I don't know, that's a weird way to go about it. And a weird way to approach it by saying, I was mad at the call, but there I was seen yelling at my quarterback. And I don't think it was very believable, is the way that I'll just kind of chalk that up. I don't think that was believable whatsoever by Sean Payton. And there's always, with Sean trying to show Russ who's the coach of the team because of what happened last year with Nathaniel Hackett and all those stories. I think there's some insecurities there with Sean. And this was one of those moments where everyone's past that, and it popped up this late in the season. It makes me wonder, how much does Sean really like Russ as his quarterback? Now, here's what I'll say to Sean Payton. There was a few scenarios in that game where, I don't know, you should have challenged one or two times where it looked like it was a touchdown and you didn't, and then it ended up being a field goal. So it's a bad look when the coach didn't have a good game, and he is berating or having an intense conversation on the sideline with this quarterback. Here is Russell Wilson. Does Sean Payton still trust him after their blow up on the sideline?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think the biggest thing is, we're trying to score a touchdown there. I think we all want to score there. I think that's our focus, and that's you want a coach that's, passionate. We want players that are too, and everything else. And so, we want to score a touchdown.
And I also, let's be clear too, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world when you have a coach and a player have some emotions and show have like a little bit of a spirited conversation. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But with that being said, Russ didn't really have like a reaction to it. So is he just letting Sean blow off steam and he was okay with that? I guess. Here is DJ Moore on Justin Fields and Caleb Williams potentially being drafted by the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams and Drake May potentially being drafted by the Chicago Bears, and then moving on from Justin Fields.
I don't know. Y'all asked me that, last week? Somebody asked me that last week. I'm still like, bro, where are y'all seeing this? Like, what makes him not the quarterback for the Chicago Bears right now? I get y'all got everybody coming out. It's like two of them. I don't think they better than Justin, so they cool.
It's a fun argument. And Justin Fields has, I don't want to say he's played himself into earning a spot on as the starter next year, because the final 3 weeks are important, but he's made it a trickier conversation than anyone could have imagined. And DJ Moore's voice should carry a lot of weight. And maybe you go get Marvin Harrison Jr. and you have DJ Moore and you surround him with Justin Fields. That's pretty damn explosive. And those are some room where you could have some potential to really have maybe a quick turnaround in Chicago. But then you have the contract, and there's a year and then the fifth-year option, so you got 2 years left. Then you got, are you ready to go commit $40 million if Fields plays well next year to Justin Fields? I don't know about that one. So let's assume they get the number 1 overall pick. I know Carolina won yesterday, but Carolina still has the number 1 overall pick that's going to Chicago. Yeah, I would still lean more so on the side that they're going to trade Fields this offseason, but is Poles still there as the GM? Do they maybe want to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then trade back and get 3 first-round picks again for someone that wants Caleb Williams? I understand both sides of the argument, but I do lean right now 60% that they're going to trade Fields and 40% that he'll be QB1 next year. Tennessee eliminated from the postseason. Derrick Henry, final year of his contract with the Titans. He was asked, did he feel like this was the end of his career with Tennessee?
Yeah, definitely today. You had that feeling. We had hope of kind of slipping in there. And then being eliminated, knowing there's 3 games left. I've been here my whole career. Definitely want to go out strong, which that isn't the case. But I'm just try to give them all these last 3 games and leave it all on the field.
He gone. They're not going to give him a new contract. And not only that, and I know he did not play well yesterday, he should have requested a trade once A.J. Brown got traded. And this is not revisionist history. I sat at the draft that night in Las Vegas. And when we got the news that A.J. Brown got traded, I said, that's it for Tennessee. Whatever window that they had still left, it's officially closed. Derrick Henry should be imploring for a trade with whatever career he has left. And I'll say this again. I think Derrick Henry, I said this last week, and I'll double down on it this week. He'll be on the Dallas Cowboys next year. Isn't that the perfect Jerry Jones signing? You bring in an aging running back, a big name. Maybe it's a 2-year deal. You front load the first year of the deal, and you have Derrick Henry to be a little compliment to Tony Pollard, assuming Tony Pollard is back.
It could definitely work, but just when I hear him speak there, it almost sounds like he's not talking about the end of his Titans career.
Oh, you think
sounds
maybe
he's
retiring?
Maybe he says, I'm just going to go out these last 3 games and leave it all on the field. He's not saying, and have a good farewell to Tennessee. He's talking about, good farewell, leave it all on the field, maybe just walk away after this.
Now, he's a battering ram. We all know that. And even though his career got off to a slow start, he's taken a lot of hits because he's the last of a bell cow back in the NFL. And maybe he's looking at it saying, yeah, I'm kind of spent. I'm kind of done. Where I know I could probably still go play for 2-3 more years, but I'm ready. I've made my money. I'm ready to go retire and not take all these injuries that could prevent me from walking or living a healthier life in 15, 20 years from now. So I would understand that, but I didn't take it that way. But that's interesting that you said it. And I can't rule it out, but I would probably lean that he's back next year and playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Here is Jake Browning on beating the Vikings, and what a choke jab that was by Minnesota after Minnesota did cut Jake Browning early in his career.
There was definitely a little extra part of, just before the game. Like, I remember getting cut there the last time and just being told, like, hey, we might have a spot for you on practice squad. Like, go to the hotel and wait. And so I sat in the hotel for like a couple hours, not knowing if I had a job.
That's crazy. So they basically say, we're cutting you, go to the hotel, and we'll let you know if you're going to be on the practice squad or not. Man, the NFL, I know we all love it, and we sit back and we enjoy it each and every Sunday. We place our bets, right? We order our wings, we make our nachos, all that stuff, and you watch the games, even if they put on a London game at 9:30 a.m. all the way until the final second of the Sunday Night Football game. It is cutthroat, and you sometimes forget the people that we appreciate the most and the players that don't always get treated the right way. And finally, here is Jerry Kill. So let me give you a little background of this story. New Mexico State is having this great season for their program. They lost in their bowl game in the New Mexico Bowl, but it's played on their rival's campus, New Mexico. So Eddie Nunez is their AD, and he didn't allow, from what I gather, New Mexico State to use the indoor facility this week because he's annoyed that the New Mexico State quarterback, I guess months ago or earlier in the year, Diego Pavia, he was seen peeing on the New Mexico logo on the indoor practice facility. Now, the New Mexico State program did punish Diego in some capacity, but here is Jerry Kill after losing the bowl game to end his season. He went off on the New Mexico AD in Eddie Nunez.
I hope the AD here gets the same damn discipline with the people around this state that Diego got, because he deserves it. And it don't bother me a damn bit. When he don't let us want to practice in the indoor facility, when he don't want us to do this, do that, that's chicken. I get in trouble. I don't give a either. But I got class. I've had class my whole life. Never been treated like that. And he better be disciplined. He better be disciplined by the state. And if he's not, it's a crime.
I love an annoyed football coach that's 62 years old that has been around the game for a long time, and he could just say whatever he wants. And he said chicken bleep too. I love that. And it's such a crazy story because your quarterback early in the year was peeing on the team's, the opposing team's indoor facility on their logo, and then you're playing at their bowl game site, and then the next thing you know, the AD's like, yep, we're going to get back at you for that. And Jerry Kill's probably thinking about it. Oh, we didn't get the proper arrangements for a bowl game, and you punished the other kids on the team when we already punished the kid that did the wrong act. Just what a wild story. Diego Pavia paying, and then months later, New Mexico trying to get some payback for the quarterback peeing. Wow. That's a wild story indeed. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. What happened with the Jacksonville Jaguars last night should surprise nobody. Because if you paid attention to the Jaguars this season, you knew they could be a good team. But up against the better opponents, especially at all places, their home building in Jacksonville, they don't show up. And this is coming from someone that before the season, I was like, look at the Jaguars' schedule. They play in a bad division. They have a Super Bowl winning head coach in Doug Peterson. You have this supposedly transcendent quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. You finally got competent coaching for T-Law last year. They go to the playoffs. They have that crazy comeback up against the Chargers where they're down 27 points, and then they lose in the second round of the playoffs against Kansas City. But this year, even with someone, and this is why I'm disappointed with them, where I was optimistic about the Jaguars. I thought the Jaguars could actually be the number 2 or number 1 seed before the season started. Not that they had the talent where it's like, oh, wow, they're the one or the second best team in the AFC, but their schedule looked so easy peasy before the start of the season. And also, no one thought the Texans are going to be any good. No one thought the Colts were going to be any good. And we knew Tennessee wasn't going to be a good football team. Now, we were wrong on the Texans. We were wrong on the Colts. I don't even know if we were wrong about them. Just no one knew that they were capable of doing something like this quickly. And now as we enter the final 3 weeks of the season, all three of those teams are sitting there with the same record of 8-6. But that Jaguars team, I don't think I've done a 180 on a team as quick from what I pushed in the offseason to then give up on them as quickly as I gave up on them in week 2. Because in week 2, they were coming off a week 1 performance against Indianapolis, so they had to come on back to take down the Indianapolis Colts. And then in week 2, they had the Chiefs coming in, and this was a Chiefs team that they lost to the Lions. Yes, they were getting Kelsey back. Yes, they got Chris Jones, or they were in the process of getting Chris Jones back, but it's like that offense you knew had problems. And that offense still has problems as we sit here through week 15 of the season. And in that game, it wasn't as if Kansas City did anything sensational on the offensive side of the ball. They only scored 9 points in the game. You know, Jacksonville Jaguars. The final score 17-9. Like, you go back to that game. If I would have told you before week 2 that Kansas City was only scoring 17 points against the Jaguars, you would have said, Zach, how many points did the Jaguars win? But Jacksonville only put up 9 points. So then the rest of the season starts to play out. And a few weeks ago, the 49ers come into town. Now, we all know the 49ers are one of the best teams in football, but they were not in a strong part of their season at that point. And the 49ers walked right into Jacksonville. They put their feet up. They drank the Jaguars beer. They ate their popcorn. They made their steaks. And they won the game 34-3. And that was 2 moments this year up against better competition teams in Duval, of all places, where it wasn't just that the Jaguars lost. It was their offense with all this talent that they have, with Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley and Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk at the time. Like, all these names, and Jacksonville just had a no-show in two big games of their season. And last night, I thought the Ravens were going to win. I picked the Ravens to cover the spread, and I picked them 23-17, but I at least thought the Jaguars would show up. And I know Trevor Lawrence now has a concussion, and he's in concussion protocol. But in that first half, it's not as if the Baltimore Ravens did like anything that was overwhelmingly outstanding. You know, Lamar is a wizard. Lamar extends plays like no quarterback that we've ever seen. But that game was right there for the taking. And their offense missed 2 field goals. Trevor Lawrence, when they finally were starting to drive the football, fumbles the ball. And then at the end of the half, they were in field goal range, and you had a player with no timeouts get tackled in bounds, and the time ran off. I don't care what the score was at that point. I don't care what halftime speech Doug Peterson was about to give. You knew the Jaguars, even in a 10-0 game, were donezo. Because it was the same things happening that transpired up against Kansas City and San Francisco on your home turf, where the offense, inexcusably, with the coaching power and the talent that you have, they just didn't know how to show up. They didn't know how to execute. They didn't know how to finish off drives and put the ball in the end zone. So Jacksonville, even though they could still win the AFC South, even though they could still make the playoffs, they are the team in the NFL this year that I'm most disappointed in. And the only one that could also rival that is Seattle. Because similarly to the way that I viewed Jacksonville, I viewed the Seahawks, where I thought the Seahawks could be the 3rd best team in the NFC before the season started. Without question, we knew it was the Eagles and the 49ers. But I looked at Seattle with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, the 2 youngsters in the secondary, and a great coach in Pete Carroll. I thought Seattle was going to be a really damn good team, where they would be the 5th seed in the NFC because the 49ers win the division, but you wouldn't want to face Seattle come playoff time. And to start out the year, Seattle's doing a nice job. Seattle's 6-3, and they haven't won a game since. And now they're 6-7, and their season's on life support tonight up against the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see if Jalen Hurts is going to play or not. So those are the two teams. And it's not just because they didn't meet expectations, right? Because, hey, the Jaguars could still make the playoffs. But just making the playoffs for Jacksonville isn't good enough anymore. You have a young core. You have a defense where Jonathan Allen in a contract year is having a career year. Trayvon Walker, even though he should have never been the number one overall pick, is starting to play better. You have Rayshon Jenkins, who's a good defensive player, and you saw that last year up against the Cowboys, and he made a big play last night. Like, you got pieces here for the Jaguars. And now you're in a dogfight with two teams that aren't intimidated. Like the Texans, they just won yesterday without C.J. Stroud. And they weren't even playing Davis Mills. They were playing Case Keenum. And they still won that game. And you look at the Indianapolis Colts, not enough people are talking about Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen, right now, if the season were to end today and it doesn't, he's coach of the year. Because, like, the Texans, at least they have C.J. Stroud. You know, you can make a case for Kevin Stefanski, but they have more talent than the Colts. The Colts are playing Gardner Minshew. The Colts haven't had Jonathan Taylor for a big chunk of the season, contractually or lack of health. This Colts offensive line was garbage last year. Now they're playing at a really high level. Like, we didn't even think the Colts and Texans combined were going to have 8 wins. They both have 8 wins separately going into Week 16. So you have two teams that are really playing with no pressure in the Texans and the Colts. They got nothing to lose in the final 3 weeks. Like, if those teams don't win another game the rest of the season, the Colts and the Texans, you know, we'll look back at it and we'll say, yeah, you know, they didn't take advantage of the opportunity, but, you know, they still had a really good year one. And for the Colts, we can't wait to see what happens with Anthony Richardson when he gets back. And the Texans, they're building something special. And I know that the Colts play the Texans in the final week of the season. But just for the sake of the argument, like, if neither of those teams won another game this season, no one's crushing them. The Jaguars don't win the division, we're crushing them. Even if their landing spot is making the wild card, they better win a playoff game. Because then this is a season of regression. And for a team that has all the pieces, even though there's some questions with the defense, but the defense, they're having a guy like Josh Allen show up. Even with some of the questions that were there with the defense before the season started, on offense, you got too much talent. And when you have Dougie P, who's won a Super Bowl, and Trevor Lawrence, who's supposed to be this ridiculous quarterback, right? This transcendent talent. It's one thing to lose all 3 games against the Chiefs, against the 49ers, and against the Ravens. But to not even be competitive, that is inexcusable. And Trevor Lawrence, who I still think could be a really great quarterback, when you get told for 3 years, and we all have to hear about you with what you did at Clemson, how you going to be this and how you going to be that, and how everyone needs to tank for Trevor, and you need to be this great quarterback, you got to play better. Now, year one, you got to pass. Urban Meyer was a joke and a total fraud as an NFL head coach. Year 2, you played really well. But this year, this team hasn't taken the step forward. And they've been outscored 74-19 in their 3 biggest games of the season, which, oh yeah, by the way, all 3 of those games were at home against the Chiefs, the 49ers, and the Ravens. Jacksonville Jaguars, I had high expectations for you. And there's a chance you don't even win the AFC South. They've been disappointing. And then as far as the Seattle Seahawks, they're disappointing too. To start 6-3 and not win a game since, I know that people don't love Geno Smith. I know that we all loved the Geno Smith story last year, right? He wrote everyone wrote him off, but he didn't write back. But Geno Smith is not the long-term answer for the Seattle Seahawks. But I can't even necessarily say that Geno Smith's the reason why they're losing all these games. Like, there was a stretch that some of these games are on him. But the game up against Dallas, your defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. And then at the end of the game, Geno couldn't get the ball in the end zone. But the score was like, 41-35? And then tonight, you get, the Eagles with Darius Slay out. Eagles, not a great team as of late, even though they're 10-3, back-to-back losses, where you got blown out by the Cowboys and you got blown out by the 49ers. And we don't even know if Jalen Hurts, what the heck is he going to do tonight? Like, he had to travel on a different plane because he was sick. I guess he's going to play. I'll assume that Jalen Hurts is going to play, but we don't have clarity on that front yet. But for Seattle, you probably don't win this game tonight. And then even though your schedule at the end of the season isn't tough the final 3 weeks of the season, you put yourself in a position where you can't afford to lose any of those final 3 games. Because you don't win tonight, you're sitting there at 6-8, and then the final 3 games of the season, you have Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Arizona, where I can't sit here and confidently say that, yeah, all 3 of those teams are definitely guaranteed wins for the Seattle Seahawks because they haven't deserved your trust. Like, they allowed the Rams to get back into this. And that's another thing. How about the LA Rams? Now it's 7-7. But the Rams are now back in this, and the Rams could be a playoff team. And that was maybe the start of the turnaround for the Rams when they got that 17-16 victory up against Seattle a few weeks ago. You know, it was a really bad loss for the Seattle Seahawks. And they've never been able to recover since then. I get it. You're playing the Niners twice, and you had the Cowboys sandwich in between, and now you have the Eagles, so you had a step up in competition. But you needed to win that Rams game. You know, you win that game, you're already at 7 wins. You just got to then find 2 more wins down the stretch. And that would be done. But you see problems in Seattle. You know, they need a franchise quarterback. They just have a placeholder right now. And then when you look at the Jaguars, going back to them, ultimately, it's like it's tough not to believe in Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, like long term. But this has not been an impressive performance. So, yeah, Jaguars are the team I'm most disappointed in, and then the Seahawks would be in at number 2. Samter, just wondering, who's the team that you're most disappointed in the NFL this season?
We kind of forget about them because their coach was so horrific and he got fired so quickly. But the Los Angeles Chargers, I mean, yeah, I understand that maybe we weren't expecting them to win a Super Bowl, but with Justin Herbert, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler, we expected them to at least contend for a playoff spot. They're 5-9.
Yeah.
I mean, they're bad. They're really bad.
And you know what's so funny? You're exactly right. The Chargers have been one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL, but we've already have kind of just destroyed and tarred and feathered the Chargers for so long that we knew what the end result was. Like the Jaguars, we didn't know the end result would be them potentially not winning this division. For the Seahawks at 6-3, you know, even though the last 4 weeks have been tough opponents, we never really have, like, talked down on the Seattle Seahawks. And it's just kind of the cycle of the season where we've already crushed the Chargers so much. You know what? We'll let them enjoy a Monday, especially how Friday they fired their coach, and that's all we talked about for 3 hours. But you're not wrong. Los Angeles is definitely in that conversation, and now their next coaching hire is going to be enormous. And the Jets have been disappointing too, especially with all the hype was, but you chalk that up to the injury of the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers. Once Aaron Rodgers did go down, I think any sane human being realized the Jets were not going to be anything of
And even some of the issues you've seen on defense, at the end of the day, like I kind of knocked the Jets a little bit for their defense, but when you are required to constantly
no margin of error
uphold a terrible offense, 3 and out, You hold the team to 3 and out, and then you go on the sideline, you get some oxygen, you're going over some notes, and boom, you're right back on the field. Turnover, fumble, 3 and out, block punt, whatever it is, that defense never had a chance to rest, and eventually it's just like, what else can we do? And you just kind of lose that focus, lose that hope, and lose that energy.
Now, I do wonder 3 weeks from now where this conversation is going to be on who's the most disappointing team from the NFL, because there's so many teams that are still in it. We have 4 or 5 teams that are only eliminated right now from the playoff conversation, and the separation, the AFC from the 2 seed to the 11 seed is so minuscule. So there's going to be a lot of times in these next 3 weeks where we see a team that we think of them some type of way now, and then they bottom out down the stretch.
Well, and the interesting thing is also, we talked about this a little bit last week, there's so much parity, right? You look at the Packers, 6-8. Is that a good year? Is that a bad year? We just don't really know. Vikings 7-7. Is that good, bad?
Well,
there's so many
let me
teams
just answer that real quickly.
Yes.
The Packers, I don't think it matters what their win-loss record is. The last 2 weeks have looked bad. It's how do you feel about Jordan Love at the end of the season? The Vikings, because they lost Kirk Cousins, I think, yeah, they should have won the game the other day against the Bengals. But for the most part, I don't think you could really complain much if you're a Vikings fan because you lost Kirk Cousins.
Right, and I think that's part of it also is that you have so many teams that lost their quarterbacks. The Steelers, the Bengals, the Browns, the Colts, right? You have all these teams that lost their quarterbacks. The Raiders lost their quarterback and then went with a new quarterback. And everyone is as kind of, the Vikings, obviously.
I can't give the
Bears
Raiders
for a little
losing the
while.
quarterback excuse. They had a dope as a coach, and Jimmy G just
but
sucked.
I'm just kind of going through the list of all the Cardinals not having a quarterback for most.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to really, put your finger on it. Even the Giants, right? Kind of losing their quarterback, but they sucked even before they lost their quarterback. The Jets lost their quarterback.
Yeah.
The Patriots have. So, there's been so many, off and ons with quarterbacks being hurt that's hard to really put. The Browns are 9-5. You're ecstatic. The Steelers are 7-7. But, all right, they fired their coach. Kenny Pickett got hurt. The Colts, 8-6. How thrilled are you if you're a Colts fan? Because maybe they're
doing somersaults in the street.
Maybe, but then maybe Anthony Richardson comes back next year and he's not as good as Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, but Gardner Minshew,
back.
He's not a long-term answer. Gardner Minshew is a guy that if you need him to play a full season as a backup quarterback, that's a competent backup quarterback. But when he becomes the guy for multiple years, I'm not trusting him.
Sure, but what if the Colts, take a back step next year under Anthony Richardson, right?
Well, you would think.
So you have all this hype, but when you have hype with a quarterback that's not going to be there, then that hype kind of dissipates a little bit.
My concern about Anthony Richardson isn't his individual ability or Shane Steichen not being able to put him in the right spot. It's just going to be, can he stay healthy? Because remember, the first few weeks of the season, when he was healthy, he was electrifying. He was awesome to watch. But they were basically saying, run with you and then make a big play or two with your arm. It's just how many of those hits can you withstand? You look at Lamar. Lamar runs the ball a lot. He doesn't usually take that. I can't remember many times Lamar has taken a big hit. Outside of that time when he broke the rushing record for a quarterback, that was the one time he took a big hit. And even Lamar still has dealt with the injuries, but a lot of them doesn't come when he's on the run. For Richardson, my concern's going to be they're asking him to put his body in an open field in so many times. So let's see how they maybe change that approach. But if you change that approach too much, then it takes away from his biggest strength as well. All right, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Who's the most disappointing team in the NFL this season? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. When we come on back, is Brock Purdy about to win the NFL MVP?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Even though I am a Patriot fan, and you would think, oh, Zach should be happy that they won, I want them to lose every single game because I'm all about the tank. Like one of my friends, he goes to me, oh, you're fired up, they won. He's also a Patriot fan. And I'm like, no, you dummy. Why are you pumped up? I know it's conflicting emotion, but when you're this bad and you have 2 lousy wins on the season, I don't want a 3rd win.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All right, it's Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free. Sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. You know, I got to give some credit to Michael Samter. Samter, I guess, was a little perturbed a few weeks ago when he went to the company holiday party and they had all this food, and then we gave him crap on the air, and we were like, oh, you didn't bring us back any of the food, you're selfish. And then last week, there was some cookie here, and he brought the cookie in. He goes, see, don't ever say on the air that I never try to get you food or things like that. I look out for your well-being. And now there's pizza, I guess, in the newsroom too, and Samter walks into the studio during the break. He's like, they have pizza in the newsroom. Do you want a slice? And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want a slice today, but I appreciate you asking. But I will inquire further here, Samter. What kind of pizza was it? Just plain pizza?
Yeah, just plain pizza from a very famous, popular spot around this area.
No, what pizza spot?
Bleecker Street.
Oh, okay. John's on Bleecker Street?
Not John's.
Or Bleecker Street Pizza?
Bleecker Street Pizza.
Oh, okay. If it was John's on Bleecker Street, I would have said, all right, we'll go to a break right now, and I would have shimmied my fat ass out there and
what
got
about Joe's on Carmine? That's the one to go to. Oh, I'm a big Joe's on Carmine.
Joe's is good. Joe's is good.
Oh, yeah.
I like Joe's. John's on Bleecker Street is my favorite slice in the city. You know, the pie that they do. Well done, thin crust, really good. And then Prince Street Pizza does a really good square pepperoni slice with those little pepperoni cups, which are to die for. Those are my 2 favorite slices. The city pizza, you know, sometimes a little overrated. I think Long Island pizza's better. Connecticut pizza as well.
Right there.
New Haven pizza is very good. No, there's a lot of solid pizza joints in New York City. I go to them a lot. I love pizza. But I do believe Long Island pizza is better. North Jersey pizza is better. Because the problem with the city is you have so many spots and so many tourist traps that you get some bad slice places where someone just walks in, they're like, oh, it's not that great of pizza. But there's like 3 or 4 spots in the city that are like unreal, 9.5s out of 10s that are to die for. Let me just be clear with the way that I'm saying that. But anyway, talking about unreal, the San Francisco 49ers. Oh, what a lame, cheesy radio transition that was. But Brock Purdy is rocking out with this Brock out. Christian McCaffrey has been sensational as well. Here is Brock Purdy saying that Run CMC should be running his way to the MVP race this year.
Dude, I think Christian should be MVP. I really do believe that. He does everything for us, runs the ball well, can catch the ball. He does everything. And so, in my eyes, that's an MVP.
What else is Brock Purdy going to say there? He's not going to be the guy that goes, I deserve the MVP award. But did you hear this, by the way? Jody McDonald tells me yesterday on Ion Football. He made an MVP bet in the summer, in August, at 50-1 on Brock Purdy. That's why Jody Mack is an absolute legend. And that's why he's one of the great radio vets that this game has ever seen, the radio game has ever seen. Because only Jody would be a degenerate gambler enough to find the Brock Purdy MVP odds, think about it, and go, you know what, 50-1 is a pretty damn good price. So that's a good job out of Jody Mack. But there's a case to be made. I don't think Tua's going to win it. To me, Tyreek Hill is more valuable to the Dolphins than Tua Tagovailoa. And you look at the 49ers, personally, I believe Christian McCaffrey is more valuable to the 49ers than Brock Purdy. But we know this has usually become a quarterback-driven award. No non-quarterback has won the award since 2012. A wide receiver has never won the award. And I saw these stats yesterday from our friends at NFL on CBS. Brock Purdy NFL rankings this season through 15 weeks of the season. Passer rating, 1. Passing touchdowns, 1. Passing touchdowns and interception ratio, 1. Passing touchdowns per attempt, 1. Yards per attempt, 1. Yards per completion, 1. Wins, 1. So you could have an argument, should Brock Purdy be the MVP on his own team? And like I said, I would rather go with Christian McCaffrey over Brock Purdy. But since the quarterbacks get such a head start on the award, like if you had a 100-yard dash, we put all the quarterbacks at the 40-yard line and say, you just got to get to the end zone, where everyone else is in the end zone or maybe in the locker room trying to chase into this MVP conversation. And Brock Purdy and the 49ers, in all likelihood, they should have the number 1 overall seed. They should have the most wins in football. And their quarterback is like 1 in all these big categories. Now, like you look at McCaffrey, he's got nearly 1,300 yards rushing. That's the most rushing yards in the league, and it's not even close. He's second in touchdowns, and he has a bunch of receiving yards as well. So there's an argument to be made for McCaffrey. I think there's an argument to be made for Tyreek Hill. Dak Prescott is now out of the conversation as of yesterday. I don't think Tua is going to win the award. And the other person that needs to be thrown into the conversation too? And I know some people will look at his stats and they go, oh, they're not prodigious enough to win the MVP from when he last won it. But you just watch Lamar Jackson and you watch him last night. There's definitely an argument to be made, even if he doesn't have the best stats, that Lamar's the MVP of the NFL too. Because you look at the Ravens, what really intimidates you on their offensive side of the ball? They lost J.K. Dobbins for the season. They lost Mark Andrews for the season. Keaton Mitchell, who was starting to play nice for them at running back, he's now done for the season. Zay Flowers is a fine rookie. Odell Beckham Jr. starting to get back into the good graces and playing solid the last few weeks. It's like you look around at the Ravens, Rashad Bateman isn't anything all that special, but he was supposed to be a first-round pick coming out of Minnesota. Isaiah Likely, the last few weeks has got hot, replacing Andrews, and Lamar's got that connection. Like, you look at the Ravens, just last night, how many times Lamar Jackson turned garbage into gold? And yeah, I get it. He's 15th in passing yards right now, 17 in passing touchdowns. I understand the stats aren't awesome, but then he has nearly 1,000 yards rushing and then, 5 rushing touchdowns as well? So, 22 total touchdowns I think that is for Lamar? I understand it's not nearly what he did when he won the MVP. when he threw for 36 passing touchdowns. And then, oh, yeah, by the way, when you look at the rushing numbers for Lamar Jackson that year, he ran for over 1,200 and 7 other touchdowns on the ground. So it's not like that. But this dude is one of the more valuable players in the NFL. So long answer short, if I was voting, I would still probably go either Tyreek Hill or Christian McCaffrey. I don't think either are going to win the MVP, and Tyreek not playing yesterday did hurt him because for Tyreek, he needs to get to 2,000 to probably win that MVP because of how tough it is to give it to a non-quarterback. But this is probably coming down to, I would say, Brock Purdy and how many votes Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey split. And then Lamar is going to be in that conversation as well. But right now, going into the final 3 weeks of the season, I do feel with the stats that Brock has, that Brock is going to win the NFL MVP. And it's wild because right before the start of the season, we were debating, is he more so a game manager or is he a great quarterback? And it shows you how irrelevant that term game manager is because you could put Brock Purdy on some other teams and he's not going to have the success that he's having in San Francisco, but he's playing at a great level. He's taking advantage of his opportunity. And I don't think he gives a rat's ass about the MVP. It'd be a nice accolade to have. But that 49ers team is going to be the toughest out of the postseason. And that's the big question mark as we embark on the final 3 weeks of the regular season. Is anyone going to have what it takes in the big moment in the postseason to knock out the San Francisco 49ers? So right now, I do believe Brock's going to win the MVP. How about you? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll take a break. We do this segment every Monday and Friday on CBS Sports Radio. Santa's got a few questions for me. I'll give you a few answers. We call it onside, offside. But first up, standing by with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, Emmanuel Barbari.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Zach, the Vikings giving quarterback Nick Mullins another shot, a second straight start, this time at a huge divisional game with the Lions. In the overtime loss over the weekend to the Bengals, Mullins, 26 of 33 for just over 300 yards, 2 early interceptions, but picked up steam after that, ended up with 2 passing touchdowns.
Just trying to enjoy each step of the way. We know we're a good football team, great defense, great special teams, productive offense. Got to put it together, man. Got to just put it together, a complete team unit, and we can. And that's what we're all striving for sure.
Mullins opened the season as the backup to Kirk Cousins, but when Cousins went down with the Achilles Week 8, Mullins was on IR, a back injury he was dealing with, so he was out of the mix for the last 5 games before Saturday. But now, Mullins getting his shot against the division-leading Lions. Vikings looking to hang on to a wildcard spot at 7-7. College basketball, sad news coming down. Eric Montross, legendary North Carolina Tar Heel 7-footer, a force on Dean Smith's last NCAA title team in 1993. Montross passed away Sunday at the age of 52. He was battling cancer since March. I'm Emmanuel Barbari.
CBS Sports Radio's The Bart Winkler Show is your go-to December destination for the best sports talk on the radio. Don't forget, we're live 24/7 on social media, YouTube, Sirius XM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Kansas City yesterday became unlikable. They were fun. They were the next team. They've already won 2 Super Bowls. They've been to another one. But there was no real reason outside of jealousy to dislike the Kansas City Chiefs. Are you bleeping kidding me? You're going to cry? You're going to complain when Kadarius Toney couldn't get his ass lined up on sides? He was clearly over the line.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll do Onsides, Offside in just a second. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, talking to NFL MVP. Let's go to Dexter in Pennsylvania next up on CBS Sports Radio. Dex, what's happening? Dieter, sorry about that. Dieter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to see McCaffrey win it. Very important player for San Fran, but with Purdy, I believe the games that they won with McCaffrey, if he wasn't in, they'd still been close games. I think they would have still won. And as you said earlier, they're already quarterbacks are already starting on the 40, so they're already getting lead votes. So I believe it will be Purdy.
All righty, Dieter, appreciate the phone call. Thanks so much. You know, McCaffrey, to me, is the player that the 49ers' opponents are going to be the most intimidated by. Like, they have so many game changers on that team, but that's the number one game changer. But when you know what the award is usually given out to, and you have this quarterback who has the most wins, probably the number one overall seed, is number one in all these categories, I have a tough time at this rate not seeing Brock Purdy get it. Now, I know that there was a 3-game stretch where there was no Trent Williams, no Deebo Samuel, and Brock Purdy didn't play all that great. You know, that did kind of give some more life to the system quarterback, more so than a franchise quarterback. But when you sit here now with 3 weeks left in the season, he's like number one in every quarterback category, or the majority of them. Yeah, I don't trust the voters to give it to a non-quarterback, something they haven't done since 2012. And that's the saying Brock Purdy isn't deserving. He's definitely deserving of it. He just would not get my vote on his own team, let alone the vote to win the NFL MVP, even though I think the voters are going to give it out to him. He's in the top 5. He should be in the top 3 or 4 names that you think of. But personally, I would go after Tyreek missing a game last week and probably not getting to 2,000. I would, at this rate, if I had a vote, I would go run CMC, but I do think Brock's going to win the award. All righty, we got some questions. We got some answers. Let's go to Onside, Offside. Stu, hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All righty, Stamper, what do you got for me?
All right, we're going to go back a couple days to Saturday when the Lions responded back by beating their first winning team since week 1.
By the way, I had an elite Saturday. Elite. I went to the Poconos, went to my favorite wing joint, BVH. I had the Johnny Hot Wings, which are delicious. I had jalapeno poppers.
I saw the pictures of the hot wings on your
so
Twitter,
good.
and I was thinking to myself, where are those? Because they look delicious.
Yeah, they were in the Poconos.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Did you bring me back some?
No, I didn't. First off,
wings are not great reheated.
All my friends were taking wings to go after we already ate the wings, and I said no. As much as I love these wings, I don't think wings travel well, and then it's tough to reheat them, and I don't want that to be your first impression of this great place, one of my favorite wings ever, with it being reheated, like air-fried wings, like the next day or two, or
is that what
or
you're
even
taking
more.
Stu and I for our dinner? We're going to have like a trip out to the Poconos, rent a nice resort, go out for some wings.
We are going for dinner on Thursday, a little Zach Gelb Show holiday dinner, but we're staying local. But I had jalapeno poppers, I had mozzarella sticks, I had nachos, these it's just delicious pork nachos, pulled pork nachos, and then we had the wings. And then, Samter, I know you're a big foodie. They make these homemade ice cream pies, and one was Oreo, and the other was peanut butter, to die for. Some of the best dessert I've ever had.
Anything Oreo, cookies and cream, I'm all in for.
Yeah,
it's anything Oreo.
So it's ice cream Oreo, and then it was ice cream peanut butter, and there was a bunch of other crap that gets put in homemade by my guy Johnny over at BVH.
You know the weird thing is, I don't care how cold it is outside, I'm always down for ice cream.
Always.
It could be negative 10 degrees, and I'm still going in for some cookies and cream or mint chocolate chip.
Especially for football. I don't know, there's just something about me that when I'm eating food, whenever I'm watching football, at some point, regardless of what you're doing, it always ends with, okay, I need some ice cream.
Well, hot wings and cold ice cream is a perfect combination.
Yeah.
Kind of help quell the mouth afterwards.
I could probably use a Pepto-Bismol endorsement, too, coming up.
Well, let's get back to the Lions, who beat their first winning team since week 1 when they beat the Chiefs. They crushed the Broncos 42-17. Jared Goff threw for 278 yards and 5 touchdowns just days after Cam Newton called him a, quote, game manager.
Yeah.
So onside, offside, you have faith in Goff to lead this offense in the playoffs.
To where, though, in the playoffs?
To be the guy who can win games with his arm when it matters in the playoffs.
Win games? Then it's an offside for me. I do believe the Lions are going to win their first playoff game since 1991. I think they will win on Wild Card Weekend, but then you will see some of the shortcomings of Jared Goff in the divisional round. I don't think they get past the divisional round. Goff has had some moments before, played a good second half of that NFC title game up against the Saints, and then crapped the bed 2 weeks later in the Super Bowl up against the Patriots when Sean McVay and Jared Goff only had 3 points in that game. But it's just not week-to-week confidence in a big moment that I believe in him. One game, one playoff win, sure. Multiple, no way, Jose. I don't think so, so I'll go offside.
Now, we mentioned them earlier. The Bucs stayed tied atop the NFC South with the Saints thanks to their massive 34-20 win over the Packers. Baker Mayfield made history in the game, becoming the first visiting quarterback ever to post a perfect QB rating at Lambeau, throwing for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, onside, offside, Baker Mayfield has done enough this year to be the Bucs starting quarterback again next year.
I would say onsides, but depending on the contract. If Baker is delusional enough to think he's getting a big payday, then I would say, okay, let me go find my next franchise quarterback, because I still think Baker is a placeholder, and I don't think you just get rid of him to just get rid of him. And maybe you draft a quarterback, but then yet again, you're not going to have a good enough draft pick. So maybe you do what the Bills and the Chiefs did a few years ago, and you work your way up the first round or back down the first round, and you find a way to trade up towards the a top 10, top 15 pick and do something like that. But I would keep it status quo if I'm the Bucs, depending on what Baker Mayfield wants next year. And as long as the money isn't outrageous, I would say, yeah, he's done enough this year to be the Bucs starting quarterback next year onsides.
Now, my Chiefs got back to the winning ways, beating the Patriots, your Patriots, 27-17. We should have put a pregame bet on this.
Your Chiefs. Yeah,
I know. Listen.
I wouldn't bet for the Patriots to win because I think the Patriots suck.
We could have gone with some sort of a prop bet or something that could have made everybody happy, but whatever.
Yeah, you know what? If I would have said 30 total team points for the Chiefs, I would have probably said I'll go the under on that because Kansas City's offense is problematic, and the Patriots at least have a solid defense. Very good defense.
Now, Kadarius Toney had another rough game, catching just 2 passes for 5 yards and dropping a pass that turned
lined up correctly
into a Patriots interception, bounced right off his hands.
Yeah.
Mahomes was visibly frustrated on the sidelines after the catch, or after the play, and then after the game, Andy Reid said he still had faith in Toney.
Yeah, we'll see how things go. I'm not down on Toney. He does some good things, man. So we just got to keep. He's a young guy, Adam. So we're not talking about somebody that has been in this league a long time.
So that sounds very, very big vote of confidence right there from Andy Reid.
Yeah, but he always sounds like that.
He does some things. Anyway, onside, offside, the Chiefs are better off benching Toney at this point.
So I understand he made 2 big plays in the Super Bowl. Had the punt return, and then on that crazy play that they designed up, he caught a touchdown pass for 2 or 3 yards. But just 2 plays in the Super Bowl should not give you this much freedom and allow you to make this many mistakes and keep on going back to the well. But it shows you how bad the Chiefs are at wide receiver that they have to keep on going back to the Kadarius Toney well. I would say, yeah, the Chiefs are better off benching Toney. I'd go on sides because you can't trust him to line up off sides. You can't trust him to catch the football. You're going to beat the Patriots yesterday regardless of who you put out there, but he's cost them 2 games this year. The one 2 weeks ago against the Bills, and then the one to open up the season up against the Detroit Lions. But the Chiefs keep on telling you nothing to see here. You're all a bunch of idiots. You're all a bunch of morons. It's kind of like when you have a friend that unfortunately has a problem, and you keep on saying, oh, they'll get better, they'll get better, they'll get better, but you know that they're not doing anything to better themselves. That's kind of what Kadarius Toney is right now. They keep on saying he'll get better, but I don't see him actually getting better, and he keeps on costing this team. And it is probably fitting that this will end in the playoffs with Kadarius Toney getting the ball thrown to him and either bouncing off his brick hands and going to the other team, or him catching the ball, making a big play, like running 30 yards, and then fumbling the ball as the defender was trailing him to cost Santos Chiefs a game.
Now, thanks to their 28-20 victory over Washington, the Rams have won 4 of their last 5 and sit 7-7, which would give them the final playoff spot in the NFC. The 6-7 Seahawks have lost 4 straight and host the Eagles tonight. Onside, offside, the Rams are the second best team in the NFC West.
Yeah, right now I don't like the direction that the Seahawks are trending to. And a few weeks ago, you saw the Rams beat the Seahawks by 1 point. So I don't get how you would argue that they aren't the second best team right now in the NFC West. So I would say on sides, and Cooper Kupp has been sensational when healthy. Puka Nacua has been really damn good this year. He would have won Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for C.J. Stroud. Matthew Stafford still slinging the ball strong. You have Aaron Donald. Outside of that, there's not a lot of names that people know about the Rams. But Sean McVay is a good coach. And they got that second wide receiver in there. Kyron Williams done a nice job as long as he could hold on to the football. I know he struggled with that yesterday. But they got a team that's the second best in the NFC West, and you look at the Seahawks, they have all this talent, but they're not being the team that we thought they could be and looking like they could take that next step with the way that we thought they were going to before the season did commence.
Now, after UCLA's win over Boise State in the LA Bowl, I'm sure you were glued to your TV for that one, Chip Kelly was asked what the biggest problem in college football was and how to solve it, and Kelly gave this interesting answer.
We should all be independent in football. And you can have a 64-team conference that's in the Power 5, and you can have a 64-team conference in the Group of 5. And we separate it, and we play each other. And then every year we play 7 games against the West Coast teams, and then we play the East. So we play Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, West Virginia, Virginia. Then the next year you play against the South while you still play your 7 teams. And so there's 132 teams, and we all share the same TV contract. That money now needs to be shared with the student athletes, and there needs to be revenue sharing. The players should get paid, and the fact that they don't get paid is really the biggest travesty.
Now, onside, offside, Chip Kelly's idea of one super conference is the best plan with all this crazy realignment.
Well, football is different than every other sport in college. And football at most schools drives the train, and you make financial decisions for football that may not be better for all the other sports that are getting played at that school. So I kind of like that idea. I do think eventually we'll trend that way, or maybe it'll be truncated from 5 Power 5 conferences down to 3. But it does feel like it's the haves and the have-nots. And I say this as someone that went to a smaller football school. I used to always advocate for the little guy to have a seat at the table. But as a non-biased college football fan, yeah, you could just throw together the best, he said 64 teams, 65 teams, whatever it is, and make them the haves and everybody else is the have-nots, and you move forward that way, and it doesn't sacrifice all the other sports when you're trying to continue to compete in Division I with everything just being so football-driven. So you asked me, Chip Kelly's idea of one super conference is the best plan moving forward. I think it's the best long-term plan, yeah, on sides.
We're not going to have a lot of time for this last one, but Lincoln Riley and USC have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And now that Caleb Williams is probably gone, we all thought Malachi Nelson, the former 5-star #1 overall recruit, would be their guy. Nelson just applied and put himself into the transfer portal. So onside, offside, Lincoln Riley will be able to rebound and consistently contend for a Big Ten title.
So he had it made for him at Oklahoma, and then he left, and he couldn't win a college football playoff game. Then he goes to the Pac-12 with maybe one of the all-time great college players that we've seen in terms of where the hype was and then where the draft projection was. And last year he wins the Heisman, couldn't even get to the college football playoff. They choked in the Pac-12 championship game, and this year they didn't even come close to competing for the Pac-12 championship. So now you're going to a tougher conference? Yeah, I don't believe in Lincoln Riley, and I don't believe in him winning a Big Ten title at USC.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. We'll get to this Dean Blandino story in just a second, but I think the biggest takeaway from yesterday in the NFL was from that Cowboys and Bills game where the Dallas Cowboys are now back and the Buffalo Bills are back as well, but they have different meanings because for the Buffalo Bills, them being back is okay through all the hiccups that they had this season. They're 8-6. They got 3 games remaining. And really the only tough game is going up against the Miami Dolphins. So bare minimum, barring something crazy happening in those 2 weeks before the Miami game, they're going to have 10 wins going into that Dolphins game. Dolphins have a tough schedule. We'll see if the Dolphins end up winning the AFC East. But even with how crammed it is and how packed it is, I do believe Buffalo's going to the playoffs. And I started this last week, and I'll double down on it this week. I think Buffalo has an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. I do. And I think Buffalo is going to the Super Bowl. We are in a year in the AFC where, and also the NFL, we've seen so many quarterbacks go down. So to just have a healthy quarterback this time of the year gives you a massive advantage. And yesterday, Buffalo's offensive line came alive. You then also saw James Cook, who was having a really good underrated season. He's like second or third in rushing yards. But he had a monster day. And that defense, even though the defense isn't great, and we'll see if they get back Matt Milano. Tre'Davious White is done for the season. But that defense was dominant yesterday but showed me that they could be serviceable the rest of the season. And it would be very fitting for Buffalo to wind up going on a run where last year they were the team that everyone was picking to go to the Super Bowl, and they massively failed. So then this year, a lot of people jumped off the Buffalo bandwagon. We basically wrote their eulogy 4 or 5 weeks ago, and now they're starting to come back to life. So Buffalo, even not needing really Josh Allen to play great yesterday, were not only able to beat the Cowboys, but they embarrassed the Dallas Cowboys. And that goes into Dallas. Dallas, every year, they dress themselves up as this 11, 12, 13-win team, as they have the looks of someone that should look great, and that should be a great team. But then you see flaws, and it just shows you how week to week this league is. Last week, the Dallas Cowboys took it to the Eagles, and it was the first big-time performance we saw from the Cowboys this year. And everyone is just praising and overly praising the Dallas Cowboys. Even I last week was praising what Dallas can be and what Dallas did, even knowing for the better part of the last 3 years, I've always said about Dallas, they look great in the regular season, and then come playoff time, they will fold and they will choke. But the problem I have with Dallas yesterday isn't just that they lost the game, because they weren't going to win out, but it's they were non-competitive. And Dallas in their building, compared to being on the road, looked like a different team. And from a talent standpoint, even though I like Buffalo going into the game and I like Buffalo to win, Dallas has more talent than the Bills this year. They are a more talented team on both sides of the ball. And you were watching, let's say, football for the first time, you would have thought that the Cowboys were a team struggling all throughout the year, and the Bills were this dominant team from start to finish. So both of those teams showed you who they really are and what they will continue to be for the rest of the season. Dallas will have moments where they crush the inferior teams. I'm sure they'll find a way in the playoffs to beat whoever wins the NFC South, whether that's New Orleans or whether that's Tampa Bay. But when push comes to shove, in a big spot, in a big moment, divisional round, NFC title game, you just won't trust them. Dallas reminds me a lot like Jacksonville right now, even though Dallas has been around for a lot longer in terms of expecting more out of them. But it is kind of amazing how teams like Dallas, Jacksonville, also to some extent, Detroit as well, how those three teams, they have the looks of really good teams, and Jacksonville now a little bit different at 8-6, and we know where the Cowboys and the Lions are trending to in terms of their record. But all three of those teams at times have looked like really good teams this year. But then in those big games, it's not only as if they don't win them, because it's one thing not to win them, but to not even show up. Like Jacksonville 3 times this year. Had a big game against Kansas City, big game against the 49ers, big game against the Ravens, and you didn't show up in all 3 of them. And that was Dallas yesterday. It's like, how do you not even show up? How do you not even put up a fight? And that's my problem with the Cowboys. And that just further reiterates and reconfirms to me what the Dallas Cowboys are. They're frauds. They're a good team. They're not a great team. And in a game like that yesterday, it cost Dak Prescott the MVP. It did. Dak was a serious momentum push to go win the MVP. And then he loses that game, and now it's like, okay, all that talk for a week, yep, just let it go right out the window. It's done and over with, and the Cowboys are back to how we analyze the Cowboys for most of the season. Expect to be disappointed with the Cowboys. All righty, so that's a little bit on the Bills and the Cowboys. That game yesterday we had to comment on and circle back to it. Let's now get to Dean Blandino. So for years we've talked about, especially with gambling being legalized, that the NFL or any professional sport's biggest fear are players gambling on the games. I actually don't think that should be the biggest fear. It's the officials gambling on the games. Now, I'm not a big conspiracy guy. Like, I'll listen, but I'm not a big conspiracy guy. When you lose a bet and then you see a call that doesn't go your way, oh, how much money did this coach, or how much money did this player, how much money did this official have? But I do acknowledge there is going to be someone, and there's already been people, right, that gamble when they're not supposed to gamble. How many suspensions did we see this year in the NFL in this offseason? But I think when players bet, they're usually betting on themselves, or they're betting on their teammates, or they're betting on friends that they're not going up against. So I don't know how much players betting really impacts the game. Now, if you have a player saying, my over-under is 6.5 catches and I'm going to take my under, and he just so happens to drop what would have been the 7th catch because he had, like $100,000 on it, all right, he's impacting the game. And I'm not saying players should be allowed to gamble. I'm not, because rules are rules, whether you like them or not. Those are the rules, and I understand why the NFL would not want players gambling. And once you open up Pandora's box, you could bet on yourself, but it has to be in a positive way. Well, then you're just losing everything. You can't do that. You can't. Even if a player's like, I'm going to bet my over on yards every week, it just can't happen. But officials are never talked about in this equation, or rarely talked about. And I'm sure, right, as Dean Blandino says, they've been approached by gambling agencies and things like that, and people associated with gambling to get the officials on their side. It's, if you don't think that didn't occur, then you're living in like this kind of naive world, let's just say. But that's my biggest fear, as we kind of just saw with the NBA, where, I've talked to Tim Donaghy before, and he was betting on the games, or he was giving advice to people that were betting on the games and things like that. But Tim Donaghy, he claims he never let a call get impacted based off the advice he gave or what he was betting on. Which, I don't know about you, Samter. When Donaghy once said that, and he did that in an interview with me and a bunch of other people, I'm like, you're telling me when you tell all these powerful people that are very intimidating and that could get you wiped off this planet in about 3 seconds and one snap of a finger, if you give them, like Spurs laying 2.5 and it's a close game late, you're not going to make calls to make sure that you're right? Like, that always does not pass me believing him, but that's what Tim Donaghy did claim and has claimed for years. But I think the officiating side of this, where for a while we've been programmed, and once you get programmed to say something, you just always repeat it. We've always been told, the NFL's worst fear, or Major League Baseball's worst fear, or the NBA's worst fear, or hockey's worst fear, soccer, whatever sport, are the players risking the integrity of the game and throwing a game based off money, which is a fear. But I think most times, players, they're going to bet on themselves. But if you need the money, you'll do desperate things, and then maybe you could throw a game. But officials, I do think it's easier for the Zebras to impact the game if, let's say, one of these gambling guys gets to them and make a direct impact, because no one's going to really sit back there if there's a bad call happens. And I'm sure there'll be some people that go, that official's gambling on the game. But I think it's said in jest, and it's more so, this is just the NFL officiating being bad, and that's always the out for NFL officials.
And the difference is, like, you look at the amount of money that these players make, right? So if you're making $8, $9, $10, $20 million a year as a player,
and not everyone makes that, but it's more lucrative playing than it is reffing.
Sure, but the guys who have more of an ability to impact the outcome of a game or a betting line are going to be making more money, right? A guy making $350,000 on a rookie contract probably isn't going to have the ability to impact a game.
Yeah, good point.
To change the line. But the rest can change the line any second. And these guys make, I think the average is $200,000. The highest paid ref makes $250K. It's nice money, but it's not life-changing money. Yeah. And so if some guy comes to you and is like, here's $1 million.
Here's a bag of cash.
Here's $1 million. Just, make a couple calls here and there and get this, get this under or get this, this line in. It's interesting, and we all thought that refs were above it. We don't really think about it. And then when Blandino was talking about today on Awful Announcing podcast, it started to raise red flags to me and to a lot of other people that, like, maybe there's more of a potential of something bad happening than not.
So I'll play the audio in just a second, but I do find it funny, and this is my gripe with TV refs, how once they're no longer reffing, these guys can't shut up. Blandino is now spilling the beans and telling us that refs are getting talked to by people that are involved in the gambling world. They're getting approached, and he talks about the checks and balances that the NFL puts the refs through to make sure that they don't do things like this. And is the Sunday night guy, it's not John Parry, it's Terry McAuley. I wanted to go through the screen last night, take my hand, and I wanted to just punch Terry McAuley in the face last night. I understand that it was a controversial play in the Jaguars game. And yes, on the second look, it did look like a catch. But for this guy to say it was clear and obvious right away, I'm like, there was nothing clear and obvious about that catch or any catch, for crying out loud, in the NFL, because we don't know what a catch is. And it bugs me because I think it impacts the way that we talk about the games, where the moment McCauley goes off like that every one of these aggregators and everyone on social media, they then harp on that play for the rest of the game. Like, they went to commercial break, came back, McCauley's still talking about it. He didn't shut up about the catch that wasn't ended up being a catch, that they ruled that it was incomplete. It just drove me bonkers. And that's what these officials do now, these TV refs. They either do it in the moment or then they wait and they find something and they bring it up like after 15 plays did go by. So McCauley, he was annoying me last night. And now Dean Blandino spilling all the beans. Here's Dean Blandino on awful announcing of the dangers of gambling infiltrating NFL officials.
We've had situations and they, where people were approached, and we always told our game officials, because they're in hotels, we didn't want them wearing NFL branded gear, right? We didn't wanted them to be inconspicuous, because someone sees them and, oh, those are the NFL officials, and then you never know. You just don't know who you're going to come across, and they know that they're supposed to go to NFL security if something like that happens, and that has happened in the past.
So it's a difference in saying that, oh, NFL officials got approached, and then also, oh, there's an official that actually took the money. And that's the other thing. Like, you talk about the risks here, Santer. An NFL official could look at it and go, I only make like $200,000 a year. Someone offers me, I don't know, $5 million to impact the game. That's life-changing money. But do you actually think you're going to get away with it? Now in the year of 2023, I don't think there's any secrets. I do believe everything eventually does come to light. And if that comes to light, then you're going to the slammer. Then you're going to jail. Like, I don't know if there's enough money for me to go to prison in order to fix football games. But I do think that's interesting audio. It's one of the few TV ref audio that I actually like, where Blandino goes, yeah, our guys have been approached. Now, here's my question, though, Santer. Is there any ref right now in the NFL today that got approached and is maybe impacting games? I do wonder, did anyone actually take the money? Now, they're never, if they get approached, they're not going to the head of officiating and saying, hey, guys, I got approached, and then you take the money, you'd be the biggest moron in the world. But I do wonder, with how casual and how easy Blandino gave that information, are there officials right now that are advising gambling companies or whatever, however it goes down, or, maybe not legal people, let's just say, even in legalized gambling, where there are officials that are getting money in some gambling capacity, and are they impacting the games?
I mean, it raises the question that it's possible. Now, Blandino went on later in the segment to explain that the NFL monitors their bank accounts. They talk to
the officials.
The officials. They talk to their neighbors. They talk to their friends.
Yeah.
And hey, did they have a new car? Did they do any weird upgrades to their home? Did they do X, Y, Z? So they're constantly being monitored.
Could you imagine if you live by one of these refs? Because not everyone says, oh yeah, they're friendly with their neighbor, but a lot of times you're not usually friendly with your neighbor. Could you imagine you're just trying to go get the newspaper, or you go trying to get some milk or something like that, and you got one of Roger Goodell's lackeys standing outside your house saying, hey, did the next door neighbor, did he have a new car? Is he having all these extravagant parties and things like that? I would get so annoyed I'd move.
I probably, but maybe there's something in it for you in the end. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it seems like the NFL has a lot of different checks and balances in place to keep this from happening. But there's offshore accounts, and there's other ways to hide money and other ways to get money into.
I don't think this is DraftKings or FanDuel.
And all these refs have second jobs also, right? Some of them are accountants, some of them. So who knows what kind of money they make? And there's ways that they can, show more money or show less money than they're actually pulling in,
or get a bag of cash and keep it under a mattress.
Yeah, and listen, so far we've seen a lot of instances where guys have been suspended for gambling, but we haven't seen instances where guys were suspended for impacting the game negatively. Calvin Ridley had a 10-team parlay and the Jags were one of them, and he bet the Jags to win. Right? Who cares, right?
And there was that situation in Iowa in college. I'm going to say this: if there's a player that's going to throw a game, it's going to happen in college.
Yeah.
I don't think it happens in the NFL, but the officiating part is the one that I never thought about.
Yeah.
And then you have that Blandino audio, and I think it'd be naive for me to just totally dismiss it and say, oh, there's no way the officials aren't betting on the games or or giving advice or things like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's definitely happening, too.
Totally agree. And the fact that he said it and admitted it makes me wonder.
Yeah, it's like, are you just trying to be entertaining because now you're in the entertainment world, or is there maybe some chatter behind the scenes and you're just dropping some dimes for us, or some some snacks on the trail or something like that, and say, hey, follow it and see what it leads to. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll do No Huddle Offense next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, we start things off in Cleveland. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Hoo, hoo. The Browns are trailing, though. And then Joe Flacco found Amari Cooper for a 51-yard touchdown pass to tie this game up at 17 apiece.
Flacco drifts right, throws, and he's got Cooper open. He caught it. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! I don't believe it! Cooper open, and Cooper tightrope walks down the sideline, tippy toes in.
Eventually, Dustin Hopkins would hit a 34-yard field goal to give the Browns a 20-17 lead. And Justin Fields let one rip right at the end of the game into the end zone. It was a Hail Mary. Darnell Mooney on his butt in the end zone. He's going to catch it. Oh, it goes up into the air and gets intercepted. That was wild. You know, when going back to that play from Joe Flacco to Amari Cooper, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, Amari Cooper did more of the work. But then you go back and you saw the way that Flacco fit that ball into a tight window with 3 defenders right in the area. It was insane because we had Amari Cooper on afterwards for Eye on Football, and he was like, I've never had a pass thrown like me from a quarterback like that, and Joe Flacco's one of the best balls he's ever seen thrown. I go, really? And then I went back and watched it. I go, wow, what a throw that was. And then Cooper turned up the Jets and was able to find the way to stay in bounds as well for that score. And you look at the Browns defense, they've had a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. Now Flacco is playing well his last 2 games. Can the Browns actually start to be a contender? I don't think so. But they can win a playoff game this year. Because Joe Flacco is a playoff quarterback, even though he hasn't been in the postseason in a long time. He used to scare the crap out of those Patriot teams, and he's actually beat them a few times in the postseason. And not only that, this is just a team that their defense is so good that if the other team gets contained, they go win a game 17-13. So I do believe the Browns have a ceiling this year, and that is they'll be in the playoffs, and I think they get 30-0. Did Tua Tagovailoa silence his critics with this performance without Tyreek Hill? Well, let's first listen up to Tua throwing a 60-yard passing touchdown to Jalen Waddle.
Tua under center. Back to throw, looking. Deep down the left sideline, he wants Waddle. He's got it! Touchdown, Miami! There's a new cheetah in town.
Boy, Jalen Waddle just smoked DJ Reed on coverage.
Could we wake up the play-by-play guy? Could we make his microphone a little bit louder? Jeez. Now, I know they go to the early bird special in Miami, but I thought the play-by-play guy was half asleep or maybe half in the bag. Who knows? But good performance by Tua, 21-24, 224 yards, a passing touchdown. Raheem Mostert has 20 total touchdowns on the season. Jalen Waddle goes 8 receptions for a $142 and a score. I know I asked it right before we played the cut. Did Tua silence his critics by dominating without Tyreek? I wouldn't say that. You know, he played really damn good in the game, obviously. The Jets have a good defense, but they have nothing on offense. They still need Tyreek Hill to go to a Super Bowl this year. I don't think Tua without Tyreek takes them to a Super Bowl. And for Tua, the game against Kansas City, the underthrow, and then the fumbling of the snap concerns me. And last week, when you were up 14 with 3 minutes to go and you lose that game, that was inexcusable. Tua's a really good quarterback. I would not call him a great quarterback, but it was a good performance by him. And then also, how about Bradley Chubb? He had 7 tackles in the game, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and also had a fumble recovery as well. Let's go back to Saturday night. This was a game between the Bengals and the Vikings, Saturday afternoon, I should say, where it looked like Minnesota was going to win. Minnesota at one point, they're up 17-3 going into the fourth quarter. T. Higgins had a touchdown catch. Joe Mixon had a touchdown run. And then it's a tie game at 17-all. And then Jordan Addison gets a touchdown to make it 24-17. But then there's a play that sometimes, like, if you're not watching the game or listening to the game and you're just seeing it on social media and you're just following a name on social media, you're like, wow, this person did something really special. This is what transpired when T. Higgins caught this ball and then found the way to stretch out and get into the end zone. This was a 21-yard touchdown pass from Jake Browning that tied up this game at 24 apiece that sent it to overtime.
48 seconds left in regulation on 2nd and 10. Browning scrambling right, in trouble, throws it off his back foot toward the end zone. T. Higgins wins a jump ball for the football. It's a touchdown. An incredible catch by T. Higgins, and the Bengals have scored with 39 seconds to go.
So it was a great catch, but it was extending the ball and finding a way to get it into the end zone. And I forgot who put this out there in social media, but they compared it to the Odell catch. If on the actual catch of Odell, it was just the extension for T. Higgins. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense, because you remember that crazy way that Odell had his arm go back to catch the football? If you just take that catch and you describe that on just the extension that T. Higgins had, that's the best way to describe on the radio how he ended up going into the end zone for that one. And eventually Evan McPherson, Money McPherson gets the game-winning kick in overtime to win the game 27-24. The Bengals are 8-6, and the Vikings fall to 7-7. And you look at the game that Jake Browning played, it's back-to-back weeks where he's done a good job, 324 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And T. Higgins goes for 4 for 61 with 2 touchdowns. Is Jake Browning going to be a legit NFL starting quarterback next season? It won't be for the Bengals because you get Joe Burrow back. I would still say I need to see more, because the environment he's in Cincinnati is a good one. Like, we don't give Zach Taylor enough credit for being the coach that he is. And then you also have, I know Jamar Chase got hurt, but you have Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, and you got Joe Mixon. You got a lot of good pieces and a lot of Super Bowl caliber experience, even though they haven't won one, with some of the players and the runs that they've been on the last 2 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. All righty, we will keep it moving, and we will stay with Saturday, as the Pittsburgh Steelers just got dominated by the Indianapolis Colts 30-13. At one point, this was a 13-0 game, and the Colts scored 30 unanswered. Let's hear Gardner Minshew find Mo Alley Cox, who, by the way, played basketball at VCU. This was a 18-yard hookup for a score, and it made it 21-13.
And back to throw Minshew on first down near sideline. Toss caught. It's going to be a touchdown. It's Mo Alley Cox. He got lost in the secondary, hit him on the fly, took it to the near right corner. His 8th catch of the season, his 3rd touchdown.
I don't know how the Colts do this. Like, I had to take a deep breath there. I really don't know how the Colts do this. They lost Anthony Richardson for the season. Jonathan Taylor has barely played for them. Shane Steichen right now would be my pick for Coach of the Year. You'd also consider DeMeco Ryans and Kevin Stefanski. And I know the Browns have dealt with a bunch of injuries, but at least the Browns have a ton of talent still. You then take a look at the Texans. At least they have C.J. Stroud. But when they're down 13-0, even with how bad Pittsburgh has been as of late, no one's thinking they're coming back. Or even if you think they're coming back, do you think they're scoring 30 unanswered? But that's what they ended up doing. And my, oh my, Minshew had the 3 passing touchdowns. The Colts also had 170 yards rushing as a team. Cowboys and Bills. Bills blow out the Cowboys. Here is James Cook on a 24-yard touchdown run. This was the cherry on top of the Sunday, made it 31-3.
Give us to Cook. Goes behind Dawkins through a hole. Down to the 10, the 5, and he leaps into the end zone. James Cook with his 2nd touchdown of the game. 1 receiving, 1 rushing. It is a blowout here in Orchard Park as the Cook has found the kitchen for the 2nd time tonight.
James Cook, 179 yards rushing in the game and a rushing touchdown. Also had 42 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. And Josh Allen only needed 94 passing yards. And the Bills win 31-10. Like, Santer, just entertain me here for a second. Let's say I go back to Saturday. not even Sunday, just Saturday, and we're talking before the game, and I say to you, you know what? Josh Allen's only going to have 94 passing yards in this game for the Buffalo Bills. Give me a prediction. What do you think the score is going to be between the Cowboys and the Bills?
100-3.
Like, seriously. You would have thought it would have been a blowout. And Buffalo would have got shredded. Instead, Buffalo blew out the Cowboys. There's certain moments that you remember. Like the Patriots and the Colts in that AFC title game where all they did was feed LeGarrette Blount. The Patriots up against the Bills a few years ago where the Pats didn't even throw the ball in the second half and they beat Buffalo. Michigan this year up against Penn State where they had one passing attempt in the second half and then a penalty took it away. All Buffalo did yesterday was run the football. In the year of 2023, where it's pass, Josh Allen only had 7 completions for 15 attempts. They ran the ball 49 times for 266 yards. And my favorite play of the NFL season was James Cook earlier in the game where Deion Dawkins was run blocking, and he took a defender from the 22-yard line down to the one that eventually set up a touchdown. That was Michael Orr like in The Blind Side in that movie scene where he takes the defender and throws him into the dumpster. That was awesome. But what a performance it was for the Bills, and now the Bills, they're back. Like, I think this is more so the Bills being back than the Cowboys being bad. And don't get it twisted. Dallas is 10-4. They'll have the look of a team that should be a Super Bowl contender, but they won't be because you can't trust them in a big spot. But Buffalo survived all the hiccups, and Deion Dawkins, who joined us last week, even said, we're getting our confidence back. And it showed on Sunday. One thing to beat Kansas City, then you double it up with a blowout victory against the Cowboys. Now they're 8-6. And for Buffalo, they're my pick out of the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. I think they will continue to get hot. They'll beat the Chargers this upcoming weekend. They'll beat the Patriots. And you got a big one with the Miami Dolphins that could decide the division. But Buffalo is a sleeping giant. And I think people are starting to realize that. Sure, the Ravens, the best team right now in the AFC. Kansas City's got offensive problems, but still a force with 15. We know the Dolphins know how to get the ball in the end zone, but they can't win a big game. This is right there for Buffalo to have a legendary December and a legendary January and then be in the Super Bowl and playing for that Lombardi trophy. And finally, the Jacksonville Jaguars just can't show up in a big game. And it's a shame, too. But you look at their 3 biggest games of the season this year, they were all at home. All at home. Against Kansas City, against the 49ers as well, and then the Baltimore Ravens. In those 3 games, they've been outscored 74-19. 74-19. It's one thing to lose them all, but to not even have a pulse in the game. And in the first half, you had 2 missed field goals. You had a fumble by Lawrence. They couldn't get the ball snapped at the end of the game, the end of the first half, because you had a player tackled inbounds. And it was just a disaster. And all Lamar Jackson did was extend the plays and show his value. And unfortunately, the Ravens suffered another injury with Keaton Mitchell, who was starting to play really well for them. But this is a Lamar Jackson 16-yard touchdown pass to a likely friend of his. Isaiah Likely also got in the end zone the other week. And here is Lamar making it 10-0.
2 receivers to the left, 2 tight ends right. Jackson in the gun, gets the snap, fakes the handoff, back to pass, fires down the middle. That's caught. Touchdown, Baltimore. Isaiah Likely makes the catch in the end zone, his 2nd touchdown catch of the year, and the Ravens find 6.
Trevor Lawrence, 264 yards, a touchdown, 2 fumbles, suffered a concussion. He's in concussion protocol right now. Lamar Jackson, 171 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and also 97 rushing yards. I bet him anytime touchdown last night. It was at plus 185, 175. How he did not get an anytime touchdown last night, a rushing touchdown, when they were at like the 1. It was inconceivable to me. So let me just ask you this real quickly, guys. Ravens right now are the best team in the AFC. We had to go around the room. Who's the biggest threat to the Ravens in the AFC? Stu, we'll start off with you.
I'll go with the Buffalo Bills.
You're on the bandwagon. Samter? Oh, we know what his answer is. The team that I just adopted, the Kansas City Chiefs. Right?
Why do I sound like Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, I don't know why. You don't sound like that.
There's a lot of things that you could say about me, but having a high-pitched voice is not one of them.
I think I'm just programmed to working with Hickey for all those years, and that's how I'd always imitate Hickey, and he does have a high-pitched voice. So
yeah,
I think
especially
that
when he gets excited. Yeah, he's got very. Yeah. No, but I say this not just as a long-time devoted Chiefs fan.
Yeah,
the Chiefs are absolutely the biggest threat.
Not even 6 months.
Close
Since
your eyes.
September?
Yeah. close your eyes for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Right? AFC Championship game.
Okay. I'm envisioning it.
Baltimore. Medium weather.
Mm-hmm.
Ravens down by 3 entering the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift in the building?
Taylor Swift is absolutely in the building. She's actually on the sideline for this game.
That's a loss.
Yeah.
Loss.
She's right there. She's right in the action.
That's the Chiefs' loss.
She's actually in the ear of Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Yeah, he's right. She's right in the ear. She's talking on the headphones.
You want a cheeseburger, big boy?
Are you really telling me that you have confidence in Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
Against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes?
I will open my eyes. Lamar has played very well up against Kansas City. And number 2, Lamar Jackson continues to be the most disrespected player in the NFL. And it's an absolute joke.
I love Lamar.
All this guy does is play well. All this guy does has exceeded expectations, and because he's had playoff shortcomings early on in his career, it's, he can't win a big game. There's been a lot of great quarterbacks that did not win a Super Bowl until later on in their career, had to overcome a lot of misfortunes. We had guys like idiots like Bill Polian, make him a wide receiver, make him a running back. The guy's first true year as in the league as a starting quarterback wins the MVP. Yeah, I believe in Lamar. I think Lamar can win a Super Bowl.
I think that he can win it with his legs, and he can throw and he can make passes at times. But at the end of the day,
he doesn't have any receivers. He's never had a great wide receiver.
So it's not going to change in this year's playoffs.
But he keeps on dominating and playing well.
Same thing as like the Cowboys, right? They look good in the regular season. They play well. He's a good quarterback. He's an elite level quarterback. But if they're down in a playoff game with bad weather and the pressure on him, I want to
remember
believe
they were down against Tennessee in the playoffs and they came back?
I want to believe in him.
Win.
I want to believe in him.
All right, so you're taking
Have
the
they gotten
Chiefs.
past the divisional round? No,
they haven't.
That's a big deal.
Okay, but did you want to say that Peyton Manning wasn't a good quarterback when every year he would lose in the postseason until he finally got over the hump one year?
The difference was Peyton Manning was breaking records with his arm left and right.
And Lamar's not breaking records?
With his legs.
Yeah,
different story.
And he had a unanimous MVP his first year as a starter in the NFL. All righty. Emmanuel, who's your pick? Who's the biggest threat in the AFC up against the Ravens?
Miami.
Oh, you're still going Miami. He's on the 2-0. That's just so obvious.
I am. I think they get overlooked.
He's afraid of Tua Tagovailoa's people going after him.
Exactly. Exactly.
He doesn't want any of that smoke from the 2-0.
I think this narrative's been put in place that, okay, because they can't play in cold climates, or they can't play on the road, that they can't win the AFC. But they've been the best team in the AFC outside of the ones you're mentioning.
Okay, the Ravens, yeah.
Right, the Ravens. So if we're looking beyond the Ravens, I think it's Miami.
Game, though. Miami can't win a big game.
But until proven otherwise, this could be the year.
Yeah, well,
and I think
we'll
they're most well positioned to win this year in a wide open conference.
They can put up points. I think the Jalen Phillips loss is big.
And they could be the 1 seed. They have a path the next 3 weeks. If they take care of business with the 1 seed, they're playing at home, and it goes through Miami.
Buffalo also beat them by 18 points. But anyway, the answer is the Buffalo Bills. All righty, they're getting hot at the right time. Josh Allen is an elite quarterback. And they're a team that has had a lot of shortcomings the last few years, or they have folded in the big games a lot the last few years, that it would be so Bills-like to finally get over the hump after everyone has written them off. All righty, it is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update in with Emmanuel Bavari.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Zach, Georgia quarterback Carson Beck announcing he's staying in school, coming back for his senior season. Beck helped the number 6 Bulldogs to a 12-1 clip. This was his first year as a starter, taking over for two-time national champion Stetson Bennett. Beck completed over 72% of his passes, almost 4,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, only the 6 picks. He said, quote, "The NFL can wait for one more year. First, Beck will face 5th-ranked Florida State in 12 days for the Orange Bowl, but he'll be back in 2024. NFL, plenty to grapple with today in Pittsburgh. Steelers will be without safety DeMonte Casey for the rest of the regular season. League suspending him without pay. Casey, that hit up high on Michael Pittman Jr. yesterday, led to an ejection in the second quarter, and the repeated violation led to a suspension. But with him or without him, Steelers looking for offense. Just 31 combined points on this current 3-game losing streak. So head coach Mike Tomlin losing the last 2 with Mitch Trubisky. Well, Tomlin's going with Mason Rudolph.
Particularly as you move into December football, man, you got to score more than 12, 14, 16 points in games this time of year. You better assume that others are doing the same.
Steelers' last 5 games, just 13 points a game before the switch. I'm Emmanuel Barbari.
CBS Sports Radio is turning up the heat this December.
From the NFL playoff push, bowl games, and coast-to-coast action from the NBA hardcourt to the college game,
we've got you covered.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Factory Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Major college football news. Dylan Raiola, number one quarterback who was originally committed to Georgia, has flipped. He is now going to Nebraska with the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, his father is a legendary Nebraska offensive lineman. His uncle is on the staff. And not to do the Windhorse fingers here, but this is like the least surprising thing ever, because when you saw, really, the other day, Kyle McCord go to Syracuse, what does that tell you when everyone said Nebraska was getting Kyle McCord? Well, it tells you that they knew that Dylan Raiola was flipping his commitment, and also a big reason why McCord left Ohio State was because he wasn't guaranteed a starting job. So if you couldn't guarantee Kyle McCord to be the starter at Nebraska, well, you could put two and two together on why so many people were hearing that Raiola was going to Nebraska, and then it was just a matter of time before you put the ball across the end zone. And I don't think he wanted to announce it yesterday because the Nebraska volleyball team was playing in the national championship game, which they ended up losing. So great get from Matt Rule. Tremendous job by the Cornhusker staff as you get a top player, Nebraska Cornhusker legendary son, right? You know, going there and trying to follow in dad's footsteps. And we would love to see Nebraska turn it around. And this year, their defense was awesome. Offensively, they had nothing. I watched every Nebraska game this year. That offense was painful. That offense was offensive to offense. With how many times they fumbled the football and turned over the football. Now they have their guy. Now they have their quarterback in Dylan Raiola. And you hope nothing but the best for the Nebraska football program, because I went to Lincoln this year. Those fans are unbelievable. They are 100,000 people in the stadium each and every week, and they deserve a winner, and they care, and their passion is really second to none. All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jim in Philadelphia says, Zach, do you think Jalen Hurts should play tonight, or should they rest him? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts or all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Well, before I give you my opinion, here is the report that's breaking right now from Rap Sheet Ian Rappaport. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, questionable with an illness, will play tonight against the Seahawks. That is per Ian and also Mike Garafolo. He's feeling well enough to go. Like, if this was a knee injury or an arm injury, yeah, I could understand you saying maybe you should rest him. But when we're talking about just an illness, I think you play him. And also, it's not as if this was a home game, but he flew on a different plane to Seattle, and he's already there. So I don't know what he has, if he has the flu, if he has the sniffles, if maybe David Carr tried to food poison Jalen Hurts, and now Big Dom is investigating this maybe to try to get Marcus Mariota on the field. I don't know what it is. But you knew if there's a chance for Jalen Hurts to play, he was going to play. And once he got on that plane the other day and flew independently of the team, you're not just flying out there to see if you could be able to play. You're going to play no matter what. And I don't fault the Eagles for playing Jalen Hurts whatsoever tonight. Now, in terms of the game, this game means a lot. It means more to, even though the Eagles need a win, with now Patricia being their defensive coordinator, replacing Sean Desai, who's still on the staff, but he's going to call the plays. The Eagles need a win because they've lost 2 in a row, but this game means more for Seattle because at one point they were 6-3, now they're 6-7. They lose this game at 6-8. You have no more wiggle room and no more margin of error where you have to win all 3 of your games down the stretch to even have an opportunity to make the playoffs. The line is 4 points in favor of Philadelphia. I'll lay the 4 on Philly. Also, DeAndre Swift hasn't been in the end zone in some time. Let's see. The last time he had a touchdown was back on November 20th up against Kansas City. I think DeAndre Swift at like plus 155, plus 160 tonight gets in the end zone and has an anytime touchdown. Especially with Hurts not 100%. I think they hand the ball off a little bit more and tote the rock, as the kids say, to DeAndre Swift tonight. So I lay the 4 with the Eagles, and I go plus 155, plus 160 with DeAndre Swift to get into the end zone. All righty, that concludes our Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Big thanks to each and every one of you for listening and participating with the fine radio extravaganza that we host for you each and every Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern as well, and noon Pacific to 3 p.m. Pacific as well. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll recap all the craziness from this Eagles-Seahawks game. I'm just hoping we get a good game. And like a lot of primetime games that don't turn out to be good games. Like last night, I thought the Ravens would win and would cover the number, but I was hoping for a good game. And at halftime, even though it was only 10-0, you knew that the Jaguars were cooked with the way that they projectile vomited all over themselves in the first half, missing the 2 field goals, fumbling the ball with Trevor Lawrence, not getting the ball off towards the end of the first half because the player was inbounds. So can we just get a good game? I'm not asking for much outside of the Eagles -4 and outside of DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown, but I just want it to be a close, competitive game. We'll recap it tomorrow on Tuesday. We'll also touch on some other sports happenings as well. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.